Welcome to the City of Miami Beach Commission Chambers. We're glad to have you with us today. If you require ADA assistance or accommodations, please notify the city clerk or any staff member, and we will be happy to assist you. As a courtesy to everyone present, please silence all cell phones and electronic devices at this time. Lobbyist disclosure reminder. If you are a lobbyist appearing before the City Commission or any city board, you must have registered with the city clerk prior to participating. If you have not yet registered, please do so immediately. Presentation reminder. If you submitted a presentation within the 24 hours prior to the start of today's meeting, please check the computer located at the podium to ensure your file is properly loaded. When the floor opens for public comment, please step up to the podium, speak clearly into the microphone, and begin by stating your name and address for the record. How to participate in public meetings via Zoom. Once you have joined the Zoom meeting, go to the bottom panel and click on the raise hand icon to notify the meeting host that you would like to speak. As soon as the host grants you permission to speak, a dialog box will pop up on your screen with two options. Select the unmute button to begin speaking. After you finish speaking, mute your microphone and click on the lower hand icon. If you are joining Zoom via phone, tap the keypad icon and press *9 to notify the meeting host that you have raised your hand to speak. A voice operator will prompt you to unmute your microphone by pressing *6. Once unmuted, you may begin speaking. After you finish sharing your comments, be sure to press *9 to lower your hand and *6 to mute yourself. We kindly ask everyone to conduct themselves in a respectful and professional manner throughout today's meeting. Thank you for your cooperation, and thank you for participating in your local government here in the City of Miami Beach.
Please take your seats. The meeting is about to begin. Remember to speak into the microphone, as this meeting is being recorded for public record. Please stand by. We are going on air in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everyone, to the October 15th, 2025 Finance Economic Resiliency Committee meeting. Appreciate everybody's time. Mr. CFO, will this be the last meeting under this
Yes.
format? Well, I thank my colleagues, our staff, for the last 2 years. It's crazy to sit here and say, wow, we're coming to the end of 2 years. But time flies, for better or for worse. I think the finance and the budget is been put front and center in a well-deserved way, more than it's ever been. Going forward, if it's my pleasure again to serve as chair or even as a committee member, I do want to really continue our focus on our overall spending, not just have that wait for budget season. I think historically this committee has just looked at our new spending items and evaluated that, but I have an item working its way through that hopefully will take effect at the FERC committee, where this will essentially also be used as a forum and a platform where we review our existing expenses, because that's how you get to $1 billion budget, where you're just examining the new items, but we don't do any sanity check for the items that have already built up. So I thank my colleagues for our time serving, and why don't I kick it over to you, Mr. CFO and Mr. City Attorney, to get started.
Sure. Good morning. Today's meeting of the Finance and Economic Resiliency Committee has been scheduled in a hybrid format with a quorum of the committee physically present and remaining members, staff, and members of the public appearing either in person or virtually via Zoom. In order to participate in today's meeting virtually, members of the public may dial 1-888-475-4499 and either enter the webinar ID, which is 863-6059-5462 #, or log into the Zoom app and enter the webinar ID, which once again is 863-6059-5462. Any individual wishing to speak on an item must click the raise hand icon if they are using the Zoom app, or dial *9 if participating by phone.
Thank you. We have a couple of announcements. MB20 is deferred. OB15 and OB16 are linked deferred. OB1, 2, and 3 are linked deferred, and OB5 and MB1 are linked deferred. And we have 3 time certains: 10:30 a.m. time certain OB15 and 16, 10:45 OB19, 11 a.m. MB23. That's all.
Okay, why don't we get a quick one, just to get started on an easy foot out of the way, OB11, and then we'll go to OB15 and 16.
OB11?
Yeah.
OB11, discuss the placement of additional or improved wayfinding that could direct guests, customers, residents from the Miami Beach Convention Center to Lincoln Road Mall, OB11.
John, how are you? Welcome.
Good, thank you.
Please.
Good morning. So we've reviewed this request. We've looked at all kinds of different ideas. We do have existing wayfinding signs within the city. We are recommending that we redo those wayfinding signs, modernize them. We would also like to work with the bid to incorporate a monument type sign like you had originally proposed. We do think we will need a designer for that sign. A monument sign will require structural design for building permits, and we'll have to identify a location. We do believe between the convention center and the new hotel in that area might be the ideal location for people leaving the convention center to get to Lincoln Road. In addition, we recommend utilizing sidewalks to put pavement markings to direct people to Lincoln Road. And
you know, part of this, John, wasn't, yes, we do need to bring awareness to Lincoln Road, but it was also trying to incorporate some sort of art, have it more of a festive atmosphere. do we need sidewalk markings to say Lincoln Road is that way? Probably not, but I do think that we could have some sort of iconic art piece slash wayfinder when I think it was one of the first conversations we had. Maybe my direction wasn't clear at the time, and I appreciate you modifying it, where it was just like, okay, we have these blue wayfinder signs. I want something where when you walk out of the convention center, you go, wow, I'm not in Detroit anymore, Chicago, wherever I came from. This is unique. This is Miami Beach. This area in a few years will command that, right? We're developing the Convention Center Hotel. We have a P3 on the Lincoln Road rooftop that's happening. I just want this area to truly be world-class, and I think, a great kind of wayfinding art sign helps that. Do we have any kind of design ideas or thoughts? Done.
I'm sorry to jump in here, but Lizette, could you come up, please? Because there's actually a parallel initiative that has been in the works for the last year and a half that is very aligned with this, that is an artistic wayfinding device, tool, piece of installation, whatever you want to call it, to do that very same thing. Lizette, could you just update us on where that is? Because I think we should probably link these items so that we're not duplicating efforts.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, Lizette Argante, Director of Tourism and Culture. Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members. Yes, Commissioner Bott is correct. She had an item from last year, I would say, about artistic wayfinding. I did share that with my colleagues in Public Works. We worked with Moonlighter Fab Lab. They gave us 2 proposals, and there was a cost attached to that. We're happy to share that with you and get your thoughts on if you like what they proposed as far as an artistic wayfinding.
Yeah. And, as we become even more budget conscious, perhaps that's a great thing if there is a cost in the, let's call it 5-figure range, I would assume, that we could get some sort of sponsorship for that. If we have an artistic wayfinding sign, it could be brought to you by the Lincoln Road Bid or by Nike, whoever.
Hotel.
Yeah.
That hotel's being built.
Yeah, something along those lines. So is that something you're prepared to share with us today, or do you want to follow up with that offline?
We can follow up offline with your officer.
Okay.
But so how do we link these so that we're not pursuing these in parallel and discordant paths? So, because it seems like a waste of everyone's time to be doing it in multiple ways.
There's some similarities, but there are also some differences. We're talking more about a monument sign. And
Well, that's what we're talking about. I mean,
What we can do is we can come back next month and we can address that in the memo that
Okay,
we
let's-
write to you, and we'll schedule some
Does that
time with
okay
both
with
of
you?
your offices. So
Yeah,
that
I don't
you're-
want to get into semantics because
Yeah.
I don't even know what they mean, like monument versus artistic. I just want something really cool, right? Really cool
Yep.
that is like, wow, that's Miami Beach and this is the heart of our downtown area. I don't know how to label that, but do something cool.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sure.
Hi, Commissioners. Good to be here, and thank you also for your service on finance. My name is Daniel Serraldo. I'm a candidate for Commission Group Number 1. And actually, as of yesterday, my chances have suddenly gotten even better. And I had a conversation this morning with some of the higher-ups, hoping that I'll be the next vice chairman of this committee if the voters say yes. But back to today. As far as the signage of Lincoln Road, as I've knocked on doors, people have told me, we don't know what's going on at the convention center. And so I'd like you to also include, like the auto show was happening and nobody knew.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need more kind of cross-marketing. And I know Tanya's got that background as well. So looking forward to what you all put together. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that. And as we get better events because of the Convention Center Hotel, we certainly do have a lot that I think are untapped resources for our community. Everybody knows Art Basel, but we've really gotten some community-focused events over there. Okay, Mr. CFO, we're going to hear this next month.
Yeah, okay, so we'll share the item was discussed and to return with a more detailed plan. Okay.
Thank you. Let's move on to OB 15 and 16. I do want to just lay some groundwork and parameters here. I don't want to prolong this. I don't want to get into nasty back and forth. This is not going to dominate the entirety of our FERC meeting. We have heard this at length for several meetings in the past. Let's talk about the things where we're moving this forward. as opposed to really rehashing everything that's already been said, because I do want some brevity in this, right? I don't want it to get in this nasty thing back and forth. I can't control that, but I can control how much time we allot to this. So to the extent where people think they're going to go through long presentations, I just see that. I'm not calling you out. We're not going to do that. Yeah, but I'm saying we're not going to go through very long presentations. Say your piece and let's move forward with this. I'd like to wrap this up in 10 minutes if we can.
Thank you, Chair. So let me call the item. OB 15, a discussion to consider proposed new management agreement between the City of Miami Beach and the Miami Design Preservation League Incorporated, MDPL, for the use of property located at 1001 Ocean Drive, the premises, for a term of 3 years with one mutual renewal option of up to 3 years, and further to approve a 6-month extension of the current agreement with MDPL and to direct staff to negotiate a new management agreement with MDPL for continued programming and operation of the Miami Beach Oceanfront Auditorium, waiving by 5/7 vote the competitive bidding requirements as set forth in Section 82-39 of the Miami Beach City Code, finding such waiver to be in the best interest of the city, or if in the best interest of the city, to issue a formal request for proposals, OB 15, which will be heard simultaneously with OB 16, discuss conflict of interest, ethical concerns, RE MDPL's multiple roles, OB 15, OB 16.
Ozzy, let's turn it to you to focus first on OB 15. Where are we at? Are we doing a 6-month extension while we kind of drill down on some of these conversations?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair. Ozzy Dominguez, Division Director of Asset Management. At the last FERC meeting, we had a discussion on this, and FERC recommended supported a 6-month extension of the current agreement to allow us time to discuss with staff today if the recommendation is to proceed with an RFP process through procurement, or if to enter into negotiations with a renewal of the current agreement. Either way, since their current agreement expires in December of this year, we need that extension so that we don't have a lapse in the agreement.
Yep. Okay, so we have that extension in place. You don't need anything further. So we do have a bit of breathing room as we decide what we want to do with that space. Are those two things possible to do simultaneously?
Yes.
Would there be anybody here that would object to that? I mean, that seems like the best way to move forward, right? So we keep all options on the table. How do my colleagues feel about that? Well, not only 6 months, but we already have that in place.
Correct.
This is essentially having staff negotiate with MDPL and then also look at what a broader RFP would be. So we're not tying our hands. If we come in and somebody goes, well, this is also a community-minded endeavor, and here's a $5 million rent, we should at least know that that option is on the table. Not setting the expectation for that, but.
Yeah, I'd like to clear up, and I'll ask Mr. City Attorney. If we are in negotiations with MDPL to see what the proposal would end up with that, and we enter into an RFP, then that would then exclude them from being able to participate in the RFP process,
I'm glad
correct?
you're asking, because I was going to weigh in. I think if the direction is to do an RFP, it would be cleaner to simply do an RFP and for MDPL to participate in that process. It's a little confusing to have a preferred vendor, if you will, and then an RFP for everybody else. So that would be my recommendation.
Commissioner.
So I'm a little bit concerned about this because I don't think this is a public space like any other potential public space. I don't have the figures in front of me, but I know I just learned that in the summer months, these past summer months, when the rest of Ocean Drive and the Art Deco district and our restaurants were suffering, that the Art Deco Museum actually had numbers that went up. And so we are trying to illuminate to the state and to the world at large that Art Deco is not to be touched, that it is, a significant part of our brand. Part of that mission is educating people about it. We use that space as a city it's a government-owned space, so we use that space for community meetings. We had the Micromobility Town Hall there. Art Deco Neighborhood Association uses that space. It will be, once the new extension is built, it will be a revenue-generating space that can be rented out. It houses exhibitions. We have 100 years of Art Deco going on right now, not just in the gallery outside, but this past weekend we had from Mumbai to Miami, which is 100 years of Art Deco in those two wildly disparate yet analogous cities. And to treat this as just another space that can be used does a disservice to what we are trying to protect and build upon for our city in the greater scheme of things. So I'm a little bit leery about having an open RFP because, sure, somebody can say, it's a great space, we'd like to do something and we'll pay you $10 million a year there, but then what does that have to do with Art Deco? What does that have to do with our cultural history? What does that have to do with character of place? So I'm very okay with giving 6 months to work out the details. I would suggest perhaps a more measured way to proceed is that if after those 6 months, which we've already given, there is not a meeting of the minds, then perhaps we can entertain opening it up to an RFP. But I don't think you can do both at the same time, because is there going to be another Miami Design Preservation League organization that's going to come in and take that space? There isn't. I mean, if Miami Heritage Trust, Data Heritage Trust came in and said, we want to move our operations from wherever they are, not on Miami Beach, to here in Miami Beach, and they are one of the bidders, I mean, that's not what we're looking for either. So I don't see how an RFP at this point is something that is desired or useful.
Well, Commissioner Schwartz.
Yeah, I mean, I really like MDPL to come up here and kind of go over some of the questions I have in a second, Ryder. But I don't see a problem with doing an RFP. I think if MDPL or Heritage Trust comes in and says, hey, this is the best use of our your facility for your city, along with any other bidder, I like having options. And I don't necessarily want to pigeonhole us into one particular vendor for a space. So I like to have options. At the end of the day, we as a commission is going to decide that. And, like the attorney said, it's going to be a little, we don't want to signal to the bidders that we have an idea of who we want. We really want to have the best case come forward. Similar to what happened at the Nikki Beach. At the end of the day, the commission, before any of us got elected, they decided that they want the Boucher brothers to operate it, but we had world-class interest, even from Restoration Hardware, and that really, and to a certain extent, that really leveled up the playing field for what was proposed. So I'm okay with an open RFP.
Mr. City Attorney, let me ask you a question. Is the commission instrumental in defining the parameters for an RFP? And where I'm going with this is to Commissioner Bott's point. Maybe that space, we don't say, what we're trying to do is get as much money in there as possible. Maybe what is more important to us is having some sort of genuflection to Art Deco, because it's in the heart of our Art Deco cultural district. So if those are the things that the commission as a body deem are important for that space, are we essentially able to craft or help fine tune what the parameters we'd be looking for in an RFP are?
Absolutely. The commission can provide direction to the procurement director and her staff, well, through the administration, as to specific parameters, what the goals and objectives are for the ultimate manager or concessionaire. An RFP could take on a variety of different forms. This property has been operated pursuant to a management agreement, but it's not to say that something else may not come up that is more desirable or favorable. But you all can absolutely give direction as to what you want. And you can give broad or you can be very specific.
And perhaps this is a question for you and for Ozzy. What is the norm that we do for other city assets, right? And to Commissioner Boss' point, this isn't just another city asset. This is a great stakeholder that we've had that, are integral to our city, but it's also probably one of our most valuable assets, that's in the heart of Loomis Park. What do we do for other instances where we have an existing city asset with an existing vendor? Do we typically just roll those leases at the end of a lease term? Do we open up an RFP? What do we do?
It varies from asset to asset. If it's a retail vendor versus a nonprofit or a service that the city really needs, we will provide a recommendation of either going to RFP or opening it up for broker services or to renew the existing agreement. So it can vary depending on the current use. This is a very unique asset. And as Commissioner Bott was mentioning, they do provide a very unique service catered to the Art Deco history of the city. I am not versed in any other organizations that provide that, but we will be able to determine that if there is an RFP, and MDPL will be able to participate in that as well.
What are the very high-level lease terms? Very simplistically, what do we get per rent on an annual basis there right now?
On MDPL, we get utility reimbursements. There's not a triple net.
All utilities?
Correct. FP&L and water and
So
sewer.
we don't get any type of rent?
No.
What
I
would
think it's
you,
$1 a year. Yeah.
what would you assign the market value there?
There's a couple of points to think about this current location and its current state. It doesn't have a parking lot, so it makes it a little bit difficult to really attract like a high-end restaurant. But if we were to do this for a high-end restaurant, anywhere between $75 and $100 a square foot triple net. So the base rent plus any operating expenses.
So tell me what that equates to on a yearly basis.
Probably over $1 million, $2 million in rent.
So there are a couple things here.
But,
Hold on, Commissioner Bott, then I'll go to you.
Excuse me, thank you. There are a couple of things here. Is Maria Hernandez, could I ask you a question? I know that the most recent GO bond, there was an extension, or there was an item that talked about the build for Art Deco Museum. I also want to ask, has anything ever been written about the role of the function, the services provided by having the Art Deco Museum in the heart of our Art Deco district? I mean, let's just talk about it for a second. Let's talk about this common sense. I understand the appeal of $1 million rent, right? I'm not an idiot. I also think that if you have a historically significant Art Deco district and your museum that relates to it is in, I don't know, on 41st Street, you completely undercut the value of having the museum there. You, in effect, kneecap the education. You signal to those who are watching with predatory eyes that we don't actually care about our architectural history, and we are doing things to actively demonstrate and undercut that. And I think that if we, as a commission, don't protect our character of place, who will? And so I'd like to ask you about the GO bond item, and then I'd like to ask you both about if this happens, if there's an RFP now for this city-owned property, are we also going to be sending out RFPs for the Bass Museum? Are we also going to be sending out RFPs for the Colony Theater, for the Wolfsonian? That one maybe, I'm not sure who owns that, but for New World Symphony, for the Jewish History Museum. I mean, where do we stop? Where do we draw the line? We either, as a city, value our arts and culture and historic institutions that educate our residents and our visitors about who we are and what we are, and who generate revenue by offering something to people to come and enjoy, which lend themselves to educating students in ways that just pure reading, writing, and arithmetic cannot do, or we don't. So which is it going to be?
So there are two GEO bonds for, if I recall, for the MDPL building. We had one in the 2018 bond and we have one in the 2022 bond. In the 2018 bond, if I recall, and I don't know if, is Thais, come here. Thais, you know, she's the GEO bond director and she's going to have more of the details because I'm just going off my memory. The 2018 bond was about renovating the space and creating a different area and expanding the footprint. What I don't remember is what the 2022 bond said. I think that was for more improvements.
Good morning. The 2022 bond was a supplementation, it was additional funds for that original GEO bond project that was allocated in 2018 bond, because it wasn't enough funds.
And so the original project that was supplemented in the second GEO bond is to do a rooftop access to make it a more beneficial, or a more updated venue so that there could be revenue driven and supplement and all these things. And just as a reminder, my recollection is that those two GEO bonds in 2018 and in 22 passed in overwhelming majorities. It wasn't like it was a close vote. It was 75% or more. So this is not something that the voters said, yeah, we're a little bit iffy about this. And there was ample time, as I recall from the GEO bond in 2018, there were charrettes and there were resident input, and people put little dots on things that they wanted to see and sort of poo-pooed things that they didn't want to see. And so what actually ended up getting put into the GEO bonds were those projects that the voters wanted to see effectuated. And then the voters came out and said, in no uncertain terms, we want to generate these projects by allowing the city to tax us an additional amount because we think it's that important. So I want to make sure that everybody understands what's going on here, that we are potentially talking about, once again, subverting the will of residents who have voted on something, which I find very, very troubling. It's a pattern that I've seen up here
Okay.
for a couple of years.
I'm sorry, Commissioner. Nobody is subduing the will of voters. Oh, they are. Okay, okay. So, but because voters, because, I'm sorry, you're either recognized or you're not. Yes, you're running for commission and you use this as a campaign, but that doesn't give you the right to sit here and chirp in from the audience. So you have no more rights, you have no more rights than anybody else. If you want to be heard, stand to the podium.
You have not told me any meeting.
Come to the podium or not.
I will.
Okay, I don't know.
And I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I don't know why you think you have some special right, time after time, to sit here and yell from the audience. Nobody's recognizing you. We're sitting up here having a discussion.
I got that.
We're sitting here having a discussion. I have never once in 2 years not taken public comment. Oh, are you okay? Are you okay?
Could I talk?
No, actually.
Okay.
Not at the moment.
Thank you.
Okay? I've never once prohibited public comment. So for you to time and time again, as people are discussing here, chirping in from the audience, saying what we're doing right. Guess what? In 2 weeks, the voters are going to get to say whether you get to come up here and carry on these antics or not. Okay? So I will allow every single person to be recognized, do so in a respectful manner. Okay? As we're sitting up here talking, you don't yell in from out in the audience. Your view, your opinion, doesn't matter more than every single other person sitting here. And this happens time and time again. So if you can give us a moment to discuss here.
Can you please sit down? I'd like to.
Was I?
No, because this isn't where the discussion.
You know what? I'll see you later. I'll see you in a few weeks.
Thank you.
I'm sure.
Mr. Chair, thank you so much for clarifying that. I think we're having a discussion, Commissioner Bott. No one's subverting the will of the voters, okay? Times have changed since 2018, okay? And our priorities now are different than the priorities we had then, notwithstanding some of the issues that we've had with MDPL. We've had zero issues with the BAS, We've had zero issues with the Colony Theater. But we have a serious ethical problem with MDPL and how they were taking funds from developers in support of certain projects. So it's really easy to say, well, look, they're a great organization and, they do tours. But in reality, the whole reason we're having this discussion is because we've seen a number of instances where lobbying activities, money being exchanged, supports certain projects. And I think that's crazy. I don't think we should be rewarding bad behavior in the slightest. MDPL, in my opinion, should not have that space moving forward because of what they've done. And I have people who are resigning from MDPL telling me, and I have a whole list of questions for them, telling me that they don't have their act together. Okay? And I'd like to answer these questions. I'm more than okay with having a 6-month extension until we find out, but it certainly seems that you're very partial to this organization for whatever reason, and I'm not. And we're both elected officials. We're both elected by the same people. I have a different viewpoint than you. And so does Commissioner Magazine. So, without further ado, I would like, Mr. Chair, if you can call the head of MDPL and really explain to us what has changed since the last time we discussed this, as far as lobbying activities, mission statements, and anything else that we discussed last time.
Yeah, and Roger, while you're coming up, and I'll go in there, and I'm not of the view that you shouldn't be in there, right? I think you're a wonderful organization. I do think that it's always wise to talk these things through, right? I get a bit cold feet. It could be the Little Sisters of the Poor going in there. I'd still say, well, $1 million, I'm not saying no, but maybe we should just have this discussion about what our options are. And perhaps the parameters of the RFP are really fine-tuned to say what we would want in there. And that is an honor to Art Deco, and that is a communal place, and we just totally forgo revenue, right? Or maybe we sit there and say, well, you know what? We can have a community benefit and we can have a community partner such as MDPL, but the financial terms have to look a bit better for us, right? And I think that that's where these options go. And, there's 7 of us that are elected. I think that we should all, for a city asset this critical, at least have a say of what that is, right? And a more robust discussion. So this would have to get recommended to the full commission to engage in these talks one way or another, correct?
Correct.
So regardless of where this conversation goes, I almost want to bifurcate the two. I do think that this should move to the full commission for a discussion about the lease. Let's lock in the 6-month extension so we're not constrained, by anything, by timing and put us back up against the wall, and then move this to the full commission for a discussion. I don't want this on consent or anything like that, where we say, what are we going to do for the renegotiation of this lease? Is it going to be, kind of a no bid and stick with the current vendor, and we'll have our facilities team go out and negotiate with that sole organization? Or do we open it up to an RFP, and then we all essentially have say over what those terms are? Maybe one person wants to see as much revenue as we can get in there because we need to fix our resiliency and flooding in other areas. Or maybe some other colleagues want to say, hell with revenue, we want our best community partner that focuses on Art Deco and preservation in there. I think those are robust discussions that the entire commission is going to want to have. So my thought is we're actually going to probably rehash this when it goes to the commission. So what I'll do, I'll make a motion that we actually just refer an open-ended conversation to the full commission about what we're going to do with the renewal of this lease, and then we'll bifurcate that and get to the other MDPL items. that something you're amenable to?
I would suggest somebody else should make the motion, Mr. Chair.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
So if I correct, I think the motion is then to refer the item back to commission with no recommendation, because there's not
Yeah.
favorable. So we'll listen to return to commission with a no recommendation for further discussion.
For further discussion.
Okay.
For an open RFP?
No, no,
Just
open
for
discussion.
the item has either
Both
or
those
in the
options are on
item.
the table. Yeah,
Under the discussion item?
yes, of course.
It would be probably a discussion, take action.
Yeah,
Yeah.
discuss,
Discuss and take action.
with the
Yeah.
full commission. Okay, perfect. And then let's have MDPL up for this discussion here.
If you want to, do you want to close that motion out? If so,
Yes.
we need do we have a
I'll
second on
second.
it? And then, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And let's
Any
just.
opposed?
Yeah.
No, okay, we'll show it passed.
And be clear, just as we're bifurcating these, Roger, please come up. Just as we're bifurcating these two discussion items, the actions and behavior of the previous director in the past and at this meeting here have no reflection on me for the new direction that this organization is taking under your bold leadership. I thought that was inappropriate. I in no way attach that to you. And I think it's unfair to your organization that he still tries to kind of, play both sides where he hangs on under the guise of MDPL and, kind of reflects through antics like that on your organization. I want to let you know that has no impact on me. I have totally separated the two.
Thank you.
I just want to say,
This is
yeah,
Jeanette.
my name's Jeanette Dorfman.
She's
I'm
on
one
our
of the Miami Design Preservation League board members.
Thank you,
And
Jen.
on behalf of our organization, David Suarez, you are owed an apology. Commissioner Magazine and Tanya Bott, we do not conduct business that way. That person is no longer a part of our organization. We have changed our bylaws to address your concerns with a look back of 3 years. We have provided all these provisions to protect, and you asked the right questions, David Suarez. Those questions needed to be asked. I'm a newer board member. We've addressed those concerns. We are ready to speak with you. If you have follow-up questions for us, we want transparency. We want a continued partnership. We've been a partner with this work, with the city for 50 years. I think we're going to be featured on Good Morning America like next week. New York Magazine's doing a feature on us. If you look at 36 Hours on New York Times, like things to do, our organization is named. We have our yearly our Art Deco Weekend is visited by like 300,000 people yearly. It's your longest running cultural, program. I have a PowerPoint. I don't know if it's here. I'm going to stop talking. Please accept my apology. We've done a international search for a new executive director. You are going to cry when you see with joy with the leadership that we have. Obviously, we want to make sure that we have a continued partnership with you. And whatever you've seen of the past, I apologize. That's not us. It's important to ask questions. We're here to address them to the best of our abilities. Again, we'll follow up with any responses that you need. I'm going to click, I guess, go with this. And let me see, how do I get this going? Oh. We're going back.
They're at the top there.
I think it's not being, hold on, how do we go back? Is there a tech help here?
You just let PJ know in the booth if you need to go
PJ,
forward or back.
can we restart it with sound?
Here, you're just going to go up and down.
There's no sound on this presentation.
Oh, there's no sound?
No, there's no sound. It was not submitted with sound. It's a PDF.
Okay. So my name is Jeanette Dorfman, and I have the honor of serving on the MDPL board, and I'm proud to give this brief presentation about our community. For over 50 years, we've been the city's foremost champion of preservation as educators, advocates, and steward of the world-famous Art Deco district. Through our tours, exhibitions, and archives and cultural programs, we celebrate what makes Miami Beach unique, ensuring that our city's historic character continues to inspire and thrive for generations to come. And it's not clicking.
There you go.
Okay. I think it's skipping on me now. So as I mentioned, we have about 7,000 people that annually take our tours. These people become, brand ambassadors of the city of Miami Beach, and every tour connects tourism with education, and every participant becomes an ambassador of his cultural identity.
Jeanette, that's 7,000 per the whole year
Yeah.
for 2024?
So that's just our organization, but you have to remember that there's many other, like, people that are not, if you walk around, you'll see other tour guides from like other organizations, but we're, 7,000 per year, just doing the tours with our association, which is one of our sources of income. And we had about 150,000 people walk through our doors last year, and the number continues to grow. Our documents are also, we have an archive that is viewed and accessible, through it's been digitized all over the world. People access them, they learn from these archives. They learn, skills that allow them to learn how to build upon what we've done in order, we have been preserving Art Deco history and keeping it alive, and other communities that want to keep their Art Deco history alive, such as Mumbai, that was just here for this past weekend. We had a 3-day festival. They, take those skills and they utilize them to advocate for their own communities, like what's happening at the state of Florida, with other smaller organizations. They learn from us, and those skills are there and they're useful, and they're educating the future, preservationists. Our lectures, we've had over 50 lectures since 2020. These are free and open to the public. They spark dialogue, they encourage responsible preservation, and they make design accessible to everyone. Art Deco Weekend's almost here. I hope you guys are getting ready. Get your costumes. It's 49th
I haven't
year.
even done Halloween yet, so.
We'll buy something Art Deco and then you can recycle it. We have many, many activities. These are just a few. And here's your Where's Waldo moment, if you want. You can see if you can spot me in the picture. We celebrated with Art Deco history with Mumbai. So, people from Mumbai came over, and Bombay. It was a 3-day celebration. That link below is, I don't know if you can see it. There's supposed to be a link below. We were featured in India magazines and India newspapers, so international recognition. So that's pretty cool. And as mentioned, we're a community space, and the community space, other organizations such as the Ocean Drive Improvement Community, the Miami Beach Marine Park, numerous organizations, city public organizations, PAL, they come and they meet and they use our space. It's a space that belongs to everyone. Wrapping it up, the center is more than just a building, it's a civic heartbeat. We preserve and promote Miami Beach's story, support local artists, and drive year-round engagement that benefits residents and businesses alike. Our presence keeps Ocean Drive vibrant, welcoming, and culturally alive. We're an outdoor living museum, and we drive that, education. People come and they learn about our outdoor museum. It's pretty impressive, I think. And lastly, I think there's no last one, but okay, I just want to thank you. Thank you for your questions, your service to this Finance Committee. Hopefully, I look forward to the Commission voting with the 5/7 to approve us so that we don't have to send this to the, I think it's called RFP or whatever. Yeah.
And we could have sat here and had an hour-long discussion.
We don't,
And we would have had another 2-hour-long discussion
we
at
want
the
to be
commission.
respectful of your time and just let you know that we're here and we're a different organization, and I apologize for, again, any outbursts.
You don't have to, because that person has no association to it.
Yeah, no, but even you, David, I mean, I feel bad that you felt attacked and that you associated that with our organization, and we were equally horrified, and that's not us.
Well, look,
We have a 50-year partnership with the city. We want to continue that partnership. We want to make you happy. We want to make the citizens happy, and we're doing, we're taking active steps. I hope I can answer all of your questions, but I want to continue this relationship. I think it's a beautiful, relationship. It gets international recognition. Look for us in Good Morning America on the 20th. And
Congratulations, truly.
I mean, it's a wonderful thing, to be featured like in the New York Times, to be featured in the New York Magazine, to be, we have an endless collection of recognition that, brings worldwide attention to our thing. And I believe that we bring in the tax dollars second to the mouse, we call it. people come to take, see those iconic buildings, to take that iconic walk. And we as activists, we don't supplant what happens at HPB or the Design Review Board. We just supplement with our opinion, and that's it.
For what it's worth.
We're just a voice, and the voice has no political objective. We're a nonprofit, and any mixture or any thoughts that you think that need to be addressed for us to separate and create transparency, and that brings you comfort, that allows our partnership to continue, we're here for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, and that's it.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm gonna hand it over to Roger. He can answer all your questions.
Before I answer your questions, I just want to tell you, I was rejected at least twice to be on the board.
I was elected twice, too.
And the reason being, they asked me, what would you do better or different? And I told them, and I got rejected. So now we have the opportunity to make all the differences and changes. We've been working very closely with Ozzy and his office, with some of the bylaw changes that we've made. We hired we're very happy, a new executive director, who hopefully will start November 15th. Excellent credentials.
Negotiating.
You can't keep teasing these things and just, leave us high and dry.
No, so, I mean, until the contract is signed,
Yes.
and we've notified the other applicants, I
Exactly.
think we can't really say
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, I mean, we just,
So-
yeah.
No, I get it.
So, and I think, so I'll just give you a tidbit. I think, rejected because in my former role as the president of the Miami Beach Garden Conservancy, I was seen as a disruptor because we ended up changing the executive director, so they wouldn't take me. And I go, oh, I'm not a disruptor. And meanwhile, we have a new executive director, and we're tightening up, the screws, and that's it. We'll make you proud. We're going to be continued with the fabulous, fabulous news that we have for you.
Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, we don't see ourselves as a political office. Actually, it says Welcome Center. I would say half the people come in are just asking Miami Beach questions, like how do I get here, what should I see? And we answer them all. We have the pamphlets.
So I think it's,
Go ahead, sorry. Dave.
I think Commissioner Magazine said we want to limit this to 10 minutes.
Sure,
It's now
okay.
probably been 30.
All right, sorry.
I think that this discussion of what you're willing to change, how we got there, really should go to the full commission.
Okay.
And so, I would like to move, I guess, the other item that was called to the full commission as far as a discussion as well.
That's fine.
I'll make that motion.
So we're going to send, maybe the city attorney, could all the discussion happen on the prior one, this item could be closed and it all be there, or does it make sense to have, because it's two items, same discussion?
But you're proposing a motion to move this
So
discussion?
the lobbying activity item that keeps coming back before us, I'd like to move that to the full.
Move that to the commission. Okay, so you can move to have a discuss, take action item the way that we're doing.
Okay, and
for the-
then you guys can be more than happy to present, answer the questions that I have and others might have, and we can, that way, I have all of my colleagues there at the same time.
Do you want to submit those questions beforehand, so just that we can answer them?
My questions, and
Yeah, but just so that it's really quick and easy and we don't spend 30 minutes, like you said.
Well, look, if you guys are looking for a 10-year extension, I think it's good to have a robust discussion. I'm not looking for it quick and easy.
Okay.
Okay.
So and that way I won't be in charge of the time, so I don't mind as much.
Okay, can I just do, since I was kicked off the stage last time, can I at least have a minute?
Please.
Okay. We are a different organization now, totally.
Is the membership changed?
You dress a lot better, I'll tell you that.
Put on a tie. Because I have respect for all of you, I really do. I mean,
Well, I'm just saying, you said that
Yeah.
the organization's changed. What has the composition of the membership of the board changed?
oh, yes, actually. And I've actually been talking to people in the city about maybe we should have a member on the board who works for the city, representing the city as well.
And I believe we have 3 new members that are coming on.
We have 3 new members who haven't been told yet that they're new members of the board. And we're still short some members. So we want to expand the viewpoints.
And the tenureship of the board, everything, the stuff that I
We
think
could discuss that at the commission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I appreciate is you have enough self-awareness to know that these changes were needed.
But sometimes people need to ask the right questions, and I believe the questions were asked, and we did, what that does is, like, it helps us level up and become we want to be a partnership that, you guys are proud of, and if there's questions that need to be answered.
Listen, I can certainly give you one question. How do you prevent what happened with the last executive director?
But we're going to have that at the full committee.
I mean, that's obviously a question I'm going to have.
But I mean, he's an ex person, so I mean, the fact that he's an member of the organization I think for like 5-6 months now. But the fact that we kept them every time we kept getting dragged in, we're like, oh my God, we're horrified. We don't want that. We don't air out public laundry that way. We don't attack public officials.
Would you say that he's been detrimental to your organization?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, it would be, there's so much that he's done, and it's been commendable, but it's unfortunate that something like this happens right before we go up. I mean, that just, it's too hard to separate ourselves when it just happened like 30 seconds ago.
Hopefully you saw our ability to do just that. So I appreciate, the changes that you are doing, not just for your organization, but as a community partner then for the city. So let's move this to the full commission. Is that a motion on the table, Commissioner?
Yes.
And I'll second.
Discuss, take action on the lobbying.
Yeah, move OB 16 to the full commission for further discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Onwards and upwards.
Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Just the vote on that, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. We'll show the item passed 3-0.
I know we have time certain's the trolley next, and then the review of impact fees, not minimizing the trolley, but the impact fees have been so front and center, and especially as we're here during campaign season, I don't mean to sit here and correct the record on every single thing that's put out there in the public realm, but so many people have sat there and said, well, you need to adjust the impact fees. Well, we're doing actually just that. And it was actually discovered in this very committee that we hadn't adjusted the impact fees for, 20 or 30 years?
30.
So why don't we go to NB 23, and then we will follow that with OB 19. But Mr. CFO, why don't you tee this up?
Sure. NB 23. NB 23, systematic review of impact fees, NB 23. And the budget team, I believe, is right outside, will be coming in to handle this item.
Good morning, Tamika Stewart, Budget Director, and we have a brief presentation that we'll share. Hopefully this will be smooth. So I'm going to hand over to Richard Adjemi, who is the Assistant Budget Director, and I'll be here for any additional questions.
Good morning, everybody. Richard Adjemi, Assistant Budget Director. So the presentation before you is pretty much summarizing an analysis that we did based on a referral from the March 19th Commission meeting to conduct pretty much a comprehensive review of the city's impact fees, as well as any other fees that are sometimes referred to as impact fees. Pretty much the focus of the presentation is going to be two parts. I'm going to go into a little bit of details on each of the fees, and then to kind of wrap it up, we're going to give you all some recommendations on adjustments that the administration is making. So
before I'd have this hanging over my head, I know SB 180 is being challenged in court, and I'm optimistic about that, but it just hangs over every decision that we make like a thick smog. Is this in any way circumvented by SB 180?
Well, I have to wait to hear what the recommendations are, but there is other legislation that relates to impact fees and what municipalities can and cannot do. I don't believe that those would necessarily be impacted by ASB 180, but let's wait to see what these guys have in mind.
And I do believe that there's some other municipalities kind of grappling with the same thing.
So before I go into the details, we just want to give kind of a high-level view of the revenues that we have collected over the last couple of years from these different fees, which, as you guys can see from the table, we've broken out into two separate categories: impact fees and what we refer to as other fees in this case. So you've got mobility, water and sewer, as well as sanitation in one category. And in the other, you have your fee in lieu, parks concurrency, and sustainability fees. As you can see, since 2021, the revenues have, I want to say, fluctuated, but on a positive note. So,
Well, if this is a one-time fee, that means it's tied to new construction. So Tamika, how we see that new construction chart in our budget, I would expect to see very tight correlation with this. Would that be correct?
for the most part, yes. With the exception of, I'd probably say, the sanitation fee, just because there is a monthly component associated with it, as well as the fee in lieu, which we'll go a little bit more in detail on.
Okay.
So the main thing, or the main takeaway from here, is just making the distinction between what is really an impact fee and what's not. And I think the main takeaway here is that the impact fees, you can't mitigate them. So if, for example, if there's something in the code that you can mitigate, you don't necessarily have to pay for the fee. That's pretty much what we're going off of here, which is why we've broken them out into these two categories. So I'll jump into the impact fees. First one being mobility fees. These fees were established back in 2019.
You know what? I learned this from my friend and colleague, Commissioner Fernandez. I apologize, Commissioner Bott. This is your item. I didn't allow you to properly introduce. If there's anything you want to say kind of post-mortem, feel free. If not, I'll let them go. But I know you worked hard discovering this. If there's any thing you want to say to tee this up, sorry for the interruption, but
not at all.
That just reflected on me.
No worries. I not much to say other than, it was shocking when we discovered that for 30 years, impact fees had not been increased. The first step was tying future impact fee increases to the CPI, which has already been done. And this has been a long time coming, so we're very excited to see what we're going to do. And for the record, because things get distorted, there is a state representative claiming that he has been behind this, and I will say unequivocally, as my colleagues can attest, because we were all here on the dais when we had the original conversation, that he is not behind this, and that we are. And so I'm pretty excited to see what you got for us, so take it away again.
One of these times, I'll let you get through.
Sure.
Let's see if this is it.
All right, you got it. So the first one is the mobility fees. I'm just going to briefly summarize here. They were established back in 2019. They're used primarily to fund or reduce the dependence on transportation, parking. So pretty much to provide alternative methods for multimodal transportation throughout the city. The fees, they are indexed to CPI, so they are adjusted annually. And the last adjustment to these fees was effective October 1st as part of the adopted budget that you all approved on September 30th. There's a variety of fees here, so I'm not going to go into the details, just because they do vary depending on the land uses, as well as some calculations that are delineated a little bit further in the ordinance. The next one, as Commissioner Bott pointed out, are the water and sewer fees, which were recently updated or brought to current reality, I guess you could say. So these fees, based on the ordinance that was approved back in June, there was some direction to kind of look at them every 5 years, just to reevaluate them to make sure that they remain cost-based. These fees primarily support expansion of our utility infrastructure.
Can I, just a quick question about that. So in addition to reviewing them every 5 years, these are also tied to CPI?
At the moment, no, but we'll get into that a little bit further when we get to the recommendations.
Okay.
So the next one is the sanitation fees. This one has two components, one of which, as Commissioner Magazine, you mentioned, is essentially tied to construction. The other component has a monthly fee associated with it. So the one that's tied to permits or development is based on job value, as well as the recurring aspect of this is based on the what's referred to as equivalent commercial units. Since the job value one is percentage-based, it's not indexed, just because, again, it varies based on the scale of the project. So that kind of wraps up the impact fees. I'm going to go through the other fees that we did as part of this analysis, and then I'll finalize with the recommendations that we're making. So the next one is the fee in lieu of parking. This one was last updated in 2014. However, a review was done earlier this year, back in April, and it was determined that it would be best to leave the fee as is, just to not burden the businesses with this additional fee or increase.
And at least from my personal standpoint, I look at it less as burdening the businesses as opposed to creating the city we want to see. And you do that through incentives. And to the extent that we want to see less cars and less traffic, the only way to do that, and I know people think it's counterintuitive, is to have less parking, right? It really is. So to the extent that we're building parking on every single project, what that does, it encourages more and more people to drive, which they're going to do. And I see it all along Alton Road. We have so much excess parking, it's nauseating. Well, that comes in place of people being able to build residential and have affordable housing and things like that. So of all the impact fees, this is the one that I'm least concerned that would kind of be left alone.
Understood. The next one is a parks concurrency fee. This one essentially is used towards the development or expansion of parks facilities and infrastructure. The fee was last adjusted back in October 2022. It's currently a flat fee, which as of now is $98.75. And last but not least is a sustainability fee. This was established back in 2016. It pretty much supports environmental sustainability and resilience initiatives. We use it for green infrastructure as well as improvements. It is, again, it's a percentage-based fee, so obviously it's not tied to CPI, just because, again, it scales with the size of the project that this fee is tied to. One thing I do want to note here is this fee, again, can be mitigated depending on any LEED standards that are achieved with construction. And last but not least, which I'm assuming is what everybody's waiting for, is the recommendations. So pretty much what you're seeing here is just a summary of the fees as well as the administration's recommendations for the mobility fee. We're just simply recommending we maintain them as is. The second one is the water and sewer impact fee. The recommendation here is, as Commissioner asked earlier, is to essentially index this to CPI every year, just so that we don't have to periodically come back with updates or recommendations on updates to make sure that these fees are remain current. The third one is the sanitation fee. This one has two parts or aspects to it. One is the fee, the monthly fee specifically, has not been updated since it was implemented back in 1998. So
I'm sorry, can I just ask how that can be?
Really can't say with 100% certainty. It's just something that has been on the books for a long time and just has not maybe been addressed. So as part of this exercise, one of the recommendations we are making is to essentially do a one-time catch-up based on inflation, as well as going forward, index that fee again to CPI.
Is this water and sewer for everyone or just development projects?
It would be for anybody that is essentially connecting to the city's infrastructure.
Just new development.
So
These are-
anything that's related to new development, yes.
It's not residential, that's a separate.
It would be a connection fee. So if you're building a building and you're adding a new connection, it's a connection fee effectively.
All new development.
It would, yeah, new development would be the major one to be impacted by that.
But it's
Anybody
not, it's not the ongoing water and sewer fees that we pay every month. I just want to clarify.
No, this is a one-time fee.
Yes.
On the other side is,
But for sanitation, one-time retroactive CPI adjustment,
that would be,
that's for commercial properties? Does it apply to residential?
it's a mix. For the most part, it is for the commercial corridors. So, and the purpose behind this fee is essentially to collect funds to provide the services that sanitation provides in the commercial areas.
Nothing to do with residential areas?
It's commercial areas. That's where it's
Which
focused on.
could have residential buildings?
It could, but it's focused on commercial. I guess I'll,
So, John Norris, Director of Public Works. It does include multifamily, which, from a sanitation standpoint, are classified as commercial, so, but not single-family residential.
Okay, so
Condo buildings,
Yeah.
apartment complexes.
Well, how do we have that bifurcated, like 8 to 10 or 12 units actually classifies as commercial,
Yeah,
correct?
right now, I believe it's over 8 is what's classified. That is subject to change with, upcoming changes, so.
Well, there will be an ordinance, I believe, presented for first reading at this coming commission meeting to bump the threshold up to 16 units, so that up to 16 units into multifamily building would be under the single hauler for residential. So that will be changing if the commission votes to do so.
If I can, just to remind, the funds go into our sanitation fund, which is covering really a lot of beautification and cleanliness
So
programs.
how much of an increase would that rollback adjustment be?
so if we were to do that retroactive increase right now, the fees themselves range anywhere from $16 a month to $50 a month, depending on the number of units. The fee would go up by about 118%, which is a little bit more than double. So you'd be going from $16 to $50 per month up to between $34, $35, and $109 per month.
Just curious, why do that for sanitation and not for water and sewer?
If I may, this was done. This is actually kind of doing exactly what was done for water and sewer a number of months ago.
And I'm assuming, I'm assuming the reason why that we're not doing that in this particular item is because there's a separate item going through for water and sewer?
Water and sewer has already been
already-
done. The only change in the recommendation is when the water and sewer catch-up was done on CPI, there was not an inflation index added to it for the future, so we don't have this problem 20, 30 years from now and someone did it. So it's basically following the same exact playbook that was done for the water and sewer connection fees as it is for these flat sanitation ones. So it would be a catch-up of CPI since that date, as if there had always been a CPI, and then just indexed to inflation so we don't have this issue arise again.
And the reason why it's 118% increase is because it hasn't been updated since 1980?
1998.
Oh,
Which is when the
98.
fee was essentially implemented.
And OMB looked at what inflation was every one of those actual years and used the actual annual inflation. So if it was 1% one year, 5%, so it's what actually inflation was.
It's a cumulative inflation since 1998.
Okay, can we go back to this slide, please? Thanks.
So for the fee in lieu, we are recommending that we maintain the fee as it is, based on what the commission approved a couple of months back. For the parks concurrency fee, we are recommending updating the parks master plan to essentially support a shift from the current concurrency fee, as you call it, to more of an impact fee structure, just essentially to mirror the needs that we have with regards to
And
the
in
parks
English,
facilities.
that means what?
It pretty much means the $98 and change that we have been charging. We feel it's not enough to kind of keep up with the growing demands of our parks infrastructure.
And do we, assess the impact that any of these new projects will have and assess accordingly. So where I'm going with that is if there is a 200-room residential building, it's a much different impact on our city than a 200-unit hotel. And unfortunately, over the past 15 years, we haven't had so much overdevelopment as we've grown in the wrong way, right? We've added close, and including what's in the pipeline, 2,000 hotels and transient units, right? While we've only added about 150 non-waterfront residential units during that same time. And that's why we see that impact throughout our city on traffic, on police resources and things like that. So is this a one-size-fits-all approach, or do we actually look at what the overall impact, there's a different impact on hotels and commercial versus residential? And Mr. City Attorney, I don't know if even legally we could bifurcate on that, but I'm guessing that the hookup fee for all of this stuff is 1 unit, and that's your charge. And we don't do any kind of delineation between the impact it'll actually have on our city.
I think I guess I'll turn it over to.
Good morning, Commissioners. Carmen Sanchez, Deputy Director for Planning. It does make a difference on the different types of land uses and how it's assessed. But the recommendation is good that we need to update the Parks Master Plan, because right now, what we're going on is based on a program that's dated. So once the improvements that were identified long ago are met, that means that the fee that we're collecting reduces. So we're recommending to move to a more updated model, more like the mobility fee rather than the straight concurrency fee. And not only that, but it's no longer on the impact that they're actually creating, but rather the fees have to be based on future plans. So that plan needs to be in place in order for us to assess the fees.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
And Mr. City Attorney, perhaps this is for you or anybody else that just wants to chime in. Can we have something that is almost escalating? So if we would have on a piece of property, let's call it the corner of 5th and Washington, just putting that out there for a point of example. You have your impact fees if you would have up to 50 units on there. But let's say you would go up to 200 units and then 500 units and then 1,000 units, right? As you increase that, you may not have a linear impact on how that impacts our city. So is there any type of concept that would be legally viable where it says we're actually going to, as you become any singular project even more and more intensive, we're actually increasing the ratio of those impact fees?
So I guess you're saying like a progressive connection fee.
Precisely.
I would need to do more research or have somebody on my team do more research to get you an answer to that. I mean, as a general rule, speaking about, for example, water connection or connection to our sewer, the impact fee is tied to the size of the water meter. So in theory, at least, if you have a development that has more units, you're going to have a larger pipe and that. But I think what you're suggesting is even beyond that, is that if you have 100 units versus 200 units, the 200 units should be potentially more than double the 100 units.
Exactly.
And I think we need to look into that
If
to
you
see.
could follow up before this.
Right,
goes
right
to-
now, we do look at the intensity that they are proposing. So a project that obviously has 100 units is going to have less of an impact than a greater project. So we look at it on a per unit basis. But the other thing that comes to mind is that even though you might have hotel units, people who visit here also use our parks. Right, so those projects should also be taken into consideration as we assess those fees, because they also have an impact.
100%.
But
And in
I
fact-
defer to John, if he wants to come up and talk about the Parks Master Plan, and there's a recommendation from staff about updating that plan.
And in fact, in my mind, actually, I think some of our commercial and transient usages provide a more intense impact on our city.
They do.
And that's where I was saying, can we actually you know, separate those fees, and if you are building commercial and hotel units, because they have more of an impact on our city, can we essentially assess fees aligned with that?
Yeah, the mobility fee model would provide that. But I defer to the Parks Director.
I think it's simple. More people, more use, more things break, more things are needed, and you need more repairs or replacement. An impact fee, or whatever you want to call it, is necessary. I do believe that in some of our parks, the hotel and the transit uses have a far greater use and wear and tear in our parks than the average resident. So I'm all for whatever we can do, especially in the budget times that we're in now, that we're not getting the renewal and replacement dollars that we need. Let's do it.
And so how do we implement that, right? Because we're all in consensus here that if you're building a 100-room hotel, it's a much more intense impact on our city than a 100-unit condo. So how can we assess our impact fees to be aligned with that?
We would have to conduct a study, and once that study is outlined with the items that we're actually, as a city, looking to provide, the levels of service, if you will, that's a more common term. Once that happens, then we can go ahead and establish a fee that would fund those future projects or deficiencies we would identify.
And I think one of the issues under state law is that the impact fee needs to be related to what the actual cost is to the municipality or the local government of the additional development or connection.
Right.
So I think that's why Carmen is suggesting that we might need some studies in addition to the legal research.
Well, I guess I'll push to have those done kind of in tandem with this moving to the full commission, because I do strongly feel that the transient usages are much more intense to our city, and the impact fees should be commensurate with that. So I don't want to approve this without having that.
We would look
kind
at
of
all
teed
the
up.
uses,
Perfect.
at all of them, to see what kind of an impact.
If I may, to maybe help move this along, is if we're able to move this back to commission to approve the recommendations, this isn't the end of this. This is probably the beginning of a pathway on many of these items. So once this goes back, is probably a consent approval for the concepts. You'll come back with a number of ordinances on sanitation, water and sewer, and this one is going to have to come back perhaps with a funding request or something. So this would just start us on the path. I think staff has heard the input from FERC, so any work that would have to come out of this would end up coming back to commission anyway.
Does this essentially become, for lack of a better term, zoning in progress? Because I don't want this to be a
No.
2-year process, and then we have these new, projects that kind of get implemented under the old regime.
I think this is just really to give the administration direction to move forward on all these initiatives, and you're going to see a bevy of concepts, a few ordinances that I think on 3 of them, and this one in particular, I think is going to be a multi-step process. There may be a determination to say, okay, if we're going to go down that path, which is great, we need, X dollars to do a planning study. So we would come back with a budget, amendment, let's say, to request that. And then commission will be able to weigh in on that concept to make sure that, they have it down on the right path. So I think just for expediency and move things along and I think there's one more recommendation that Richard will go through, is we're hoping to have this item go back to commission with a favorable recommendation on our recommendations, but this will not be the end of it. This will be a start of a process.
And these will, we can effectuate these as soon as they go back to commission, unless there's something like what Carmen was just talking about, which requires further study. So that
yes.
doesn't have to be a monolithic block of everything at the same time. It's like,
Correct. I mean, as the water and sewer CPI would more likely be in effect next October 1st as it goes through the cycle. The sanitation could be in effect immediately.
Correct.
And then
So each one would have to have its own separate process as it kind of moves further along and goes back to commission.
and are there, because I know we talked about it at various points, are there other fees throughout the city that need to be examined? We talked about a comprehensive review of fees that may or may not be tied to development, but, I don't have any idea of, nothing's popping into my mind at the moment, but who knows what other fees are out there? Roll-off fees, you know.
If I can,
parking,
on
whatever.
those particular fees were handled semi-recently within the past year or two. All the fees are listed in our budget every year. Most of the ones that are able to are tied to CPI, which really ameliorates a lot of the issues that really were identified in this issue. And this fixes a few of those items,
Okay,
which.
so I know we've done a lot already. So the question is, are there any that are slipping through the cracks? Can we just, at some point, go back and make sure we've captured everything, either in the months prior, the things that we've done already, or things that we just didn't catch the first time?
We can certainly go back and double check again.
Thank you.
Just to make sure nothing has kind of quote unquote slipped through the cracks.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, and then, I'll just wrap it. The final one was just keeping, that was the last recommended change, correct?
The last one was a sustainability fee, which we just recommend maintaining the fee as it is, since it is percentage-based.
So we would hope to get a recommendation to send this back to commission with a favorable recommendation on the impact fee adjustments as recommended.
And just to be clear, the sustainability fee being maintained is, at the current rate, is based on the concept that the fee is based on the percentage, and so whenever a new project is brought to us, the cost will be specific to what year and what costs are.
Correct.
When it
So
gets
it's-
brought, so so we don't need a CPI because we're effectively capturing that.
Correct.
as it
It's
is.
based on 5% of the total job value.
So the percentage ones automatically have whatever the cost of inflation is, so those work well.
And so for the, in lieu of parking fees, I understand, and I remember this conversation well, that we decided, it's already pretty high, let's keep it that way. But at what point are we going to, is a commission in 10 years going to say, oh my God, how could they not have adjusted this? Like, what are we doing about that?
If I may, I believe planning brings an item annually or every couple of years. The planning looks very closely at this item, and they self-started that process this year where they brought it forward to get, administration had recommended to keep and maintain that rate, and they got the commission to affirm their recommendation.
Good morning. We do an analysis based on the cost of construction of parking garages in the city. So every year, I'll get information from CIP, what was the most recent garage that was built, what was the cost per space, including the cost of land to build that garage. The cost has been increasing, and as a result, the fees would increase the cost of building a parking space. However, at $40,000, we don't have many people that actually use that fee. It hasn't really changed anything, so we've recommended keeping it at $40,000 because going any higher really makes the fee something that nobody's going to ever use or pay or desire to use.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate everybody's work on this.
Thank you. So if we can get a motion?
I'll move it as recommended.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Mr. City Attorney, I believe I am, but also Ada is a co-sponsor.
We will make sure that you are.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing none opposed? Passes. Thank you.
If we can hear NB 14, the North Shore Tennis Center, because I know we have a community member that's here. I want to be respectful of her time and all that she does for our wonderful city.
NB 14, discuss options for funding amounts necessary for the design and construction of a terrace at the North Shore Park Tennis Center. NB 14.
David.
Good afternoon. David Gomez, Director of Capital Improvements. As you all are aware, the project for the North Shore Tennis Center included the building of public restrooms, which have now been completed and open to the public, as well as a shell space for future build-out. During the construction of the shell space, the tennis center requested that we expand the patio on the west side that faces the tennis courts. We originally anticipated using CRA funding and received a recommendation from the advisory board to do so. After further review and consultation with the city attorney's office, it was deemed that due to the language in the CRA, we could not use those funds for that purpose. So we are here before you today to discuss potential options for funding that expansion, currently estimated at $350,000.
So where I'm at, and Lori, please come up, and John, if you want to come up as well. We have an operator at the North Shore Tennis Center that essentially operates our tennis academy, for lack of a better word, if you will. We also have a Public Works or CIP project associated with improving that area. I think there's some things that the private side can do sometimes with more expediency than we're often able to do. And we see this project up there. I went and I visited firsthand, and it's just languishing. And you have created something so unique and special up there. You deserve world-class facilities that are along with it. And we've just gone through a very long budget year. I don't want you to be sitting around years and years waiting for us to magically find this $400,000 to say, okay, now you have a go time. And then it takes a few years after that. I went up there, you have this beautiful facility. It caters to all walks of life, from our well-to-do to our have nothing. They all unite on the tennis court up there. You've created something special. I want you to have the facilities and amenities that are commensurate with what you're creating. And I went up there, there's rebar that's hanging out. It's just not conducive to what.
Not that rebar.
Well, he was hanging out there too, to what you're trying to build. And one of the things that we discussed was possibly you taking on that responsibility. And I understand that wouldn't be financially feasible for you to do locked into your current terms, right? So you're only going to make that large CapEx cap outlay if you have the certainty that you have a longer operating agreement. Even hearkening back to the high-level discussion we just had with MDPL, we funded some of those improvements through our GeoBond, our taxpayers, right? What we're doing here is saying the private side will do this, and in exchange for that, you get a longer contract to lock you in to be able to make back some of that money, because you're going to outlay a couple $100,000 yourself. You need a longer certainty that you're going to be able to earn that money back. So you're essentially doing us a service, and when I say us, I don't mean the three of us up here, our taxpayers, right? Because you're saving them $400,000 that would have been burdening them. So why don't I turn this over? John, David, did I get anything wrong there? Lori, did I get anything wrong? And then we'll kick it up here, or maybe serve it up here for discussion.
Well, thank you. I appreciate all the kind words. It's been a long journey. I started here in 2017, and we took a tennis center that was pretty much derelict and turned it into the most phenomenal community resource. And as we continue, I think the last phase is really adding that cafe, which is in my contract actually for me to operate. So some of the major components that were missing, including a grease trap, created a problem for me to actually be able to execute that. When you look at the projects that we're thinking of now for the future, like paddle and whatnot, part of the big picture is creating a community space, a blue zone for people to hang out and eat. And as they put that in Paddle X, that's kind of what we're trying to go back and retrofit within the tennis center, so that the people, whether they're at tennis or baseball or at the community center, can come and have a cup of coffee and sit and watch the tennis and sort of relax, because everything is so go, go, go. But there's really two components to this. There's the one component, which is finishing that terrace, which honestly, it's absolutely embarrassing, because people ask me almost every day, when's the cafe coming? When's the cafe coming? And I'm like, cafe at this point is a 4-letter word. Please don't get me started.
Well, literally it is.
I mean, yes, it is. But in my mind, it's been like a sore spot, because I really want to see this finished in the right way. And then there's the build out of the inside of the cafe. So neither of those are, small peanuts when it comes down to, actually getting something done these days. But I think there's two pieces that we're actually really talking about.
And just for the record and for clarity, the reason that the west side is unfinished is because we stopped the contractor pending this request for a change. Otherwise, there would be a ramp there now and it would be done.
Well, I was up there as well. We talked at length and walked through the facility. I'm very concerned about the conditions. I think it's an accident waiting to happen. And it's also frustrating that you know, you have people asking, when is the cafe coming? And have operators asking, you know, I'd like to bid on this, or I'd like to get involved with this. I mean, it is, we need to find a path forward. And so I'm pretty excited to help facilitate that now.
I guess my confusion has always been like, I feel like we go down one path, we get a solution, and then we're kind of told, no, it's not that, you know? And so I understand the CRA was a miscommunication, and then I spoke to you, and I don't know what the actual answer was now, because you said, like, we found some money with the capital expenditure, what do you call it, when there's overages?
Yeah. So that, one of the things that we've been looking at is the potential of using the capital reserve to fund the difference. And the contract is currently on standby. We just need to resolve how we fund this change, which is why we're here before you today.
So I guess that's the second, right? So if there's the ability to utilize reserves for the $350,000 that would finish the grease trap and the outside, that would be amazing, because then I would probably have to put in myself around $250, $300 to build the inside of the cafe, which I really want to do, and know with certainty that I'm going to be there, because I've, you know, been through the RFP process. And
So the options are either fund it through reserves or extend the contract. Is that right?
Or a combination of.
Or a combination of?
A combination of both, I think, is probably the right answer.
Okay, so, and you're comfortable with that? And the city is comfortable with that?
We are, yes.
And so what is the split, and what's the contract extension? Like, what is?
I can't, I don't know if John has a.
I haven't fully
we haven't-
negotiated or spoke about
Honestly,
what
I
that
just
would
found
be.
out this was coming on as an item yesterday.
Okay,
I
so,
didn't
so
even-
next steps should be, I would suggest, if everybody's amenable to this, is for this to go back to commission along with a recommended path forward of, you know, this is a contract extension, number of years, this is what the city's going to fund from the budget, and this is the path to move forward so that we can, you know, vote on this and make this happen. It's just been languishing.
So if I can, I think it's to return to commission to direct the admin to negotiate an extension to the operator agreement with a condition for the operator to partially fund the design and construction of the terrace.
If you want, for clarity.
How much?
The city has the funds to finish the terrace. The city has the funds to install the grease trap. What I believe we'd be negotiating is the build out of the cafe and the contract extension. I think that would be the direction it'd be given.
So we to fund the build out of the, okay.
May I ask, the existing agreement did not contemplate the build-out already for the interior?
Just operations. Correct. It's your agreement.
Yes, but it does say that I am to operate a cafe in the space, which the reason why it was just built as an empty shell is because it would have sat there not moving forward with the bathrooms had I not just said, build the shell, because it was originally budgeted pre-COVID at like a $2.1 million project, and we couldn't get it to go anywhere. So I said, build the shell, I will create the cafe myself, because that's the only way to get it done. And obviously, you guys funding part of it helps me, because otherwise I'm looking at probably a $600,000 outlay on my own. As, you know, I'm a really great resident, but that's kind of a lot, I would say.
Lori, how much is it gonna cost?
About $300,000 to build out the cafe. In appliances alone, it's like $150 by the time I get things going. And I can't even start on this. I can't even get this permitted until these guys get the deck going. So I've got about 3 years left on my contract.
I don't want you paying anything. I mean,
Me either,
seriously.
but I mean, I really want to be a part of it. Now, you know, John and I can discuss whether or not that money comes out of my future rent payments somehow, so that, you know, it's not like an overall burden for me. I do produce a significant amount of revenue for the city. I'm not looking to get anything for free. I love this city and I love the tennis center. So whatever it takes to get it done.
No, but I think that's right. It's not your personal contribution to the city. It's a, you know, payment now against future revenue or rent payment or whatever. And really, you can't start because the permit isn't closed. I mean, that's the issue. And so we need to move expeditiously to finish the work on the exterior, close the permit, concurrent with negotiations on the funding for all these next steps, and then just move forward. I mean.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have the ability to approve that piece of it, if they have it in the reserves to say, let's go ahead and do that, because I can't even store stuff in it. It's the most beautiful storage space that is getting unused in the city right now. $2.2 million,
Yeah,
project.
I don't believe we, as a finance committee, have the authority to approve, but we can definitely recommend that it goes back. I don't know, can it come back to the October meeting to move it forward?
I think that would be up to whoever is handling this for staff, David or Parks.
If you're talking about a capital budget amendment to fund the city portion of the elements that we've spoken about?
Yeah, I mean, whatever needs to happen first to enable you guys to finish the exterior work and close it out the permit so that while you're doing all the other stuff, we can get going, do the contract negotiation and start planning for the build-out. I just don't want this to go another 3-4 months before we even close out the contract. Like, how do we expedite this?
Yes, we can work with the budget department. We've missed our deadlines for the October 29th internally, but we can speak to the manager and see if we can effectuate with the CIP department to move forward a quick budget amendment, which we hadn't planned on for October 29th, but if that's the will, we can discuss that with the city manager. And we'll fund from the capital reserves, the city elements, but this motion is to return to direct the admin to negotiate an extension to the operator agreement with the condition that the operator would fund the build out of the cafe.
Yes.
As part of.
And again, not out of
Okay.
your private pocket, but as funding against future earnings of the facility so that, so your rent payments might be decreased by 5% for the next 3 years, whatever, until the money is made.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, so you guys negotiate that. We bring it back this month in October so that we get going with it. Because it's all going to take time, no matter how quickly we press play, and then we just keep moving forward.
So for clarity, we'll be bringing back the budget amendment and request for the 350, which is the terrace, the grease trap, the outdoor portion, together with a direction to negotiate an agreement for the build out of the interior and the extension of the lease.
That's what I would recommend.
Yep. I would just ask CIP to send that information to OMB immediately. Okay, so who would be making that motion? So we'll show Commissioner Bott making the motion, a second.
Just give the motion one more time.
Return to commission with a favorable recommendation to direct administration to negotiate an extension to the operator agreement with a condition for the operator to fund the build out of the cafe at the North Shore Park Tennis Center.
Can we put something in there that if by the next commission meeting, we find funding for the tennis center where they're not required to fund it? If, let's say, I bring a motion or an item to fund the tennis center so they don't have to pay out of pocket for it. And
I think that should be handled right now.
But I just want to make sure that the item that we're passing doesn't pigeonhole them into funding it themselves. Unless I bring something forward or someone else finding the money for it.
My understanding is that the city, through its capital reserve, is going to cover the terrace
Just the terrace and the grease trap.
I think
and the grease
I'm
trap
more
work.
than comfortable doing that with some negotiation as to
Right, and then the build out would be negotiated.
how I'm doing it
Talking
over the
about
future.
just the build out, because the motion that you just said
Yeah,
requires them to pay for the build out.
that's what I'm hearing from the committee.
Yeah, well, I'd like to have like an the city finds extra funds to help fund the build out.
Commissioner, I don't know if it'll satisfy your concern, but the agreement itself has to come back to commission for approval anyway.
Okay.
So Commissioner Bott made that motion. Do we have a second?
So, but you're saying in that time we can.
In that time, if
Maybe-
the commission decides that they found a way to fund it, the agreement will just be adjusted so that they don't have to fund it.
Got it.
And listen, if you're thinking of self-funding this is appreciated, I don't think necessary, but thank you though.
Sorry, Commissioner Bott made the motion. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, Commissioner Magazine, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, passes 3-0. Thank you.
Lori, thank you so much for what you
thank
do
you,
for our
guys.
city. You're truly a
Thank
great
you.
operator.
Lori?
I'm honored.
Let's do OB 19, the trolley contract.
Okay. OB 19. Request for advisory review and recommend approval of final selection and negotiate agreement in substantial form as set forth in attachment A with Limousines of South Florida Incorporated pursuant to invitation to negotiate ITN 2024-008-ND for municipal circulator services from the Transportation Mobility Department. OB 19.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members. I have a brief presentation that picks up where we dropped off last month. PJ, if you could put up the presentation, please. Okay, so the first couple of slides are a refresher. This slide shows the three vehicles that were considered as part of the procurement: the hometown trolley, the Gillig trolley, and the Gillig bus. The vehicle that the administration is recommending is a 40-foot Gillig bus. It's a low-floor vehicle, heavy-duty, with dual doors for easy boarding and alighting. However, if you recall, if this vehicle is selected, it would result in an increase to our annual operating cost of about $5.4 million. So we've been engaged in trying to reduce that deficit or close the gap to the extent possible. At the last FERC committee meeting, you may recall that we spoke a little bit about advertising, and there was a concern amongst the committee members that we were not generating sufficient advertising revenues. So we did a little bit of research on this. Our advertising on the exterior of our trolleys generates about $180,000 a year. But some of the key takeaways based on our research was that when the policy decision was made to ban alcohol sales, that quickly reduced our revenues by approximately $80,000 a year. Also, premium brands, national brands typically do not advertise on transit vehicles, if you will. They advertise either on big digital billboards, even our bus shelters as well. There are some that are digital, but not so much on transit vehicles. The transit vehicle market attracts more local businesses, which obviously have a lower monthly rental rate. However, the key takeaway here is that based on our research and information that was provided by our advertising vendor, Outfront Media, our rates do align with the market averages for transit vehicles, and that is in the range of, $4,000 to $11,000, depending on if it's a small business or if it's a premium brand.
Jose, and let me
Yes.
ask, because I just wanted to do like a little anecdotal observation. So I sat in Sunset Harbor one day and just did my own little study or analysis and saw about 20 trolleys go by. I don't know how many were the, unique, but less than half of them had any advertising at all. Some had city advertising, right? They were actually like city initiatives, don't litter, things of that nature. So maybe our rates are in line, but, and this isn't a question for you because I don't think you're doing the advertising or marketing, but are we really putting our best foot forward in trying to sell this? Because if our rates are competitive, I don't know if our utilization is competitive. We have this iconic city with some weekends, 500,000 visitors. And I think, it's a pretty easy sell if we do it. If our rates are in line, maybe it's not a utmost priority. And how do we make it such?
Mr. Chair, I think you raise a very valid observation. I will ask our advertising vendor, Outfront Media, to perhaps they can shed some light on that observation.
So we have nothing to do with it. We just rely on.
That's correct.
Sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Bott. Mike Llorente with LSN Law. We represent Outfront Media, the advertising company that operates the advertisements on your trolley program. And I'm joined by Pablo Kremashki, who's the general manager for the South Florida region. I can say a couple things. Number one, the fact that you observed advertising on about half of the trolleys is simply a function of demand. If the demand were there for more advertising, there would be more trolleys with the advertising. I can say secondarily that Outfront Media has a pretty heavy presence in Miami-Dade County and specifically on the beach. They also operate through a separate contract, your bus shelter program. And so they focus on trying to sort of cross-sell, right? If an advertiser comes in with an interest in one advertising medium, they try to cross-sell to the other. There is an aggressive effort. Based on my conversations with Outfront, and perhaps Pablo can expand on this, there has been a decrease. Number one, as Jose mentioned, the lack of advertising for alcohol products has had a significant impact. Number two, the availability of new digital assets on the beach has also pulled some advertisers away, whether it's national advertisers or advertisements for campaigns for like a 2-week event or a month-long event. What happens often is that those advertisers who used to advertise on the trolleys because they were the only show in town, recognizing that there's a cost to installing and then removing advertisements from a trolley, they'll opt for the digital because it's, you know.
What is our revenue split there if you go out and sell advertising?
So I believe the city currently retains 52.5%. Is that right?
And 47.5 Outfront.
Correct. So it's 52.5 in favor of the city. We are having discussions on adjusting that because there is a concerted effort from both Outfront and obviously your transportation team to drive up revenue.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, you know, is the incentive structure properly aligned? Is this a large component of your kind of bottom line revenue, or is it just like around the margins?
It's an important, I'm not sure that it's large in terms of raw numbers, but it's an important part.
I just wanted to make sure it was getting the attention it deserves from our standpoint, because it is critical to us as part of a publicly traded, right?
It is publicly
Yeah,
traded,
publicly
yes.
traded. It may be just, you know, pennies in front of a steamroller for you. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just, you know,
If I may,
inquisitive. Please.
Thank you for, so the company is a publicly traded company with offices in the whole United States. We include the trolleys of the city of Miami Beach in every RFP and every proposal we have on the national demand. And we do it, and also we have 25 AEs in 2 cities, in 2 offices in Miami and Pompano, to cover all the local market. So we are trying to offer the trolleys and all the inventory that we have in the city of Miami Beach and the city of Miami, etc., to all the market. No, so we're very
Much appreciated, and thank you for the partnership. Jose, let's continue.
PJ? Let's start there. Okay, all right, thank you. So as I mentioned previously, we have a funding deficit of $5.4 million annually. To reduce that deficit as part of the new service, we're exploring options for your consideration. I will mention that these are not necessarily options that we are recommending, but options that we are presenting for your recommendation. The first option is what we call the bus versus trolley option. While our recommendation is a trolley vehicle for a variety of reasons, including the branding, the iconic branding that we've had for the past, over 10 years, if the Gillick bus is ultimately selected, it will represent an annual cost savings of about $500,000 annually. And that is, as I mentioned at the last meeting, the fact that the trolley vehicle has an additional cost associated with it. It's the trolley package, and it's about $150,000 additional per vehicle. That's the capital cost, but in terms of operating savings, it's about $500,000 a year if that option is exercised. The second option is to reduce the hours of daily service. We currently operate from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m., that's 15 hours a day. If we were to cut that down to 12 hours a day, focusing on commuter demand,
I'm sorry, what is our current operating
8
schedule?
a.m. to 11 p.m. If we were to focus on commuter demand, meaning, let's say 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. thereabouts, we would save approximately $1 million if the trolley vehicle is selected and $1.5 million if the bus, Gaelic bus vehicle is selected.
Mr. CFO, do our resort taxes go towards this at all? Or is this, there's a combination that comes from our resort taxes, that's correct, right?
This is funded, there's two places the trolley is funded from. One is the half-penny sales tax that we get through the county, and the other portion, which is really the upper portion that we're really talking about, is the transportation fund, which does come from, I believe it's 60% of one of the 1% of the resort tax. So yes, this is, tourists are paying a big chunk of this.
So I'm just thinking, when we sit here and talk about, okay, how do we make this work? The first fundamental question you have to ask, what is the intent of this? Yeah, yes, it's very broad ranging, but is it for commuters going to and from work? Is it to make sure tourists have this as an option as opposed to getting in Ubers? And is it to reduce traffic? So I think, and this is, I guess, our job more than anybody else's, is what is the goal of the program, right?
Do we have data on ridership by hour? I mean, are there hours, does it really fall off after 9 o'clock in the evening? Or is it really used for commuting? I know when we make changes to the bus route, our senior citizens are very vocal about praising changes if they're useful and being concerned about the changes if they're not. So I don't want to cut the service if it's being used equally throughout, but if it's really not being used after a certain period of time, then maybe that's something we should be examining as well.
Yeah, and just, familiar with, looking outside my window at 10 o'clock at night. Are there people that possibly use it after getting off a work shift? Yes, of course. We can never speak in absolutes.
But where's the
Is the
majority?
juice worth the squeeze? I have a hard time seeing that.
If I can share, I know we've spoken at length before, and I know I've spoken with the transportation department as a anecdotally, as a very frequent user of the service myself. We use it, my family, I use it to go to church on Sundays. We use it to go to the grocery store. When we had a movie theater, we use it to go to the movies. We use it to go to dinner. So I see, and as I live next to Rebecca Tower, I do see it used, a lot of the seniors are using it to go to Publix, use it to go to the grocery store, to go to church. It does, and if they have hourly numbers, they can look at, later in the evening, but it does seem that there's a lot of heavy use during the day, and in the evening, dinner circulation. We want to go to dinner. We're not going to drive up to Washington Avenue. We're going to jump on the trolley, and we're going to use that to go to dinner and then come back. But that's, we're more American, so we probably eat more in the 5 to 7 range, more than Europeans are probably eating a lot later. But that's, how we see that. But do you have
That
hours?
seems more like a Jason Green resident comment that you're going to need to make from the podium.
So, Mr. Chair, throughout the years, we have conducted user surveys to understand who's using it and why. What we know is about 50% of the users are actually 53% are residents. And so the remainder are, they could visitors or day trippers. Also, 57% of the trips are used for leisure. 24% of the trips are used for work purposes. So currently, it serves a variety of purposes. And ultimately, the goal is to provide a mobility option that is safe, convenient, where people do not need their cars, particularly for close trips, because this is an internal circulator system within our city.
I think the overall goal, obviously, of this exercise, as we discussed last time at FERC, is to attempt to live within our means. We know the difficult budget process that we went through, and we know that that will be difficult to find new dollars going forward. So it's, the budget department worked diligently with the transportation department, was very open and honest about their fund. And they're looking at, they're looking at some very honest recommendations that could bring down that cost increase on the contract to try to bring that fund within a more fund balance structure. And there's other elements outside of this
And how locked
contract.
in would we be if we decided to go with the reduced hours out of the gate? How locked into that decision for, what, 7 years we're proposing here for the contract?
7, minimum, base term is
Yep.
7.
How long are we locked into we could never increase?
No, we could. Yeah, there's flexibility. The contract will have that flexibility in terms of increasing hours, decreasing hours. We can increase routes, decrease routes as needed.
These are never easy decisions, right? But I don't know if we have another choice.
Yeah,
I mean, where do you find $5 million?
No, I think it's a couple of things. I think we look at cutting whatever the least used ridership hours are. If it's 9 to 11, then so be it. Whatever you guys determine. The other thing is, I know the Miami Beach package, to make it look and feel like a cute little Miami Beach trolley, is very appealing, but I don't know if we've seen what the cost is to maybe just wrap the exterior. I think you said you couldn't wrap it the first year because the paint wasn't fully cured, but maybe that's something that 6 months, maybe that's something we do instead of spending, I think it was $150,000 each trolley for the full package to simulate the look and feel of something historic and, charming, and especially, or not even historic and charming, but something that definitely signifies Miami Beach. And so if we can do that for significantly less than $150,000 a year, but still brands it as a Miami Beach trolley, I think that's a win as well. It also gives us a conversation, an opportunity to have a conversation with the folks in the marketing department about what do we want to communicate here? Is it don't be rough on the bay, or is it, make sure you hit these awesome destinations? It gives us a lot more flexibility, and I think that would be money better used.
And I think what you're talking about then is the bus, because Jose, the trolley, which was our recommendation, is the more expensive option, right? So it's the bus, if you're speaking about the bus, which does save, what was the?
$150,000 per vehicle.
But if we move from the trolley down to the,
Half a million a year.
yeah, so there's savings there. Rare, so if there's the option, because that's one of the important, what we're looking for are critical path issues that let us execute the contract, which is the type of vehicle and number of vehicles. That's the no-go decision that we need to have here today. Things on hours of operation, it's good that we can get that approval for that recommendation so they can make those adjustments immediately and begin saving money. But I believe there's options that if there's money found in the future, we could ramp up those hours. But what we're going to talk about is the specific vehicle type that's going to be approved and the number of. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to co-opt the chair's prerogative, but I would suggest that we bite the bullet a little bit and take the less expensive option and look at different ways of cutting further. I think the two things that residents care about the most is making sure the buses are kneeling buses so people can get on and off easily, and that they're safe and clean, obviously, and that they emit as few emissions and particulate matter as possible, because that is also pretty nasty. So I think, if I recall correctly from the prior presentation, the bus hits all of those metrics. It's less expensive, it's flexible in wrapping potential down the road, it is a kneeling bus, and it is not all the way to completely green, but it significantly reduces the particulate matter that comes out of it.
And
Yeah, I wish we could be all things to everybody.
Yeah.
But I think first and foremost, we're going to be no things to nobody if we can't fund this.
Right.
So.
Correct.
So,
And
so,
I
so
just
Jose, I
wanted
think
to-
that's the first two, right? So
Yeah.
we dealt with it being the bus, the save money versus the trolley, and the reduced service hours, at least initially at 1.5 million. I think you have at least two other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Left off on option three.
So we're trying to fund a $5 million delta, and we've
We're trying to,
gotten,
I think we're just trying to bring it down as low as possible. This is gonna get us a lot of the way, because the fund does have fund balance to cover us
right,
through
but
for future
essentially
years.
the delta that we're trying to bridge is $5 million, right?
Correct.
And we got to what, $1.5 or $2 million?
We're
through
at two
these-
so far.
$2 million through these two initiatives.
Okay.
I'm not gonna stop you anymore, let's make the same progress with it.
And I'd be remiss if I don't say that, just based on historical patterns, whenever we reduce hours, ridership goes down. As an example, prior to the pandemic, we were operating 18 hours a day. We had over 5 million passengers a year. After the pandemic, we reduced the number of hours from 18 to 15, and we saw a decrease in ridership from 5 million to 3.5.
But
We're currently
I
at
would-
about 3.5 million
I
a
would
year.
suggest, let's look at that, because I would also suggest that there's a core user group that will always use the trolley, right? The people here for a couple days, the seniors who use it, and I think it's a phenomenal amenity for folks who use it. But there's also now, what's different from the pandemic, pre-pandemic and immediately post-pandemic, is that people are using scooters all the time, and they hadn't been prior to this, right? So they have bigger, like a million different versions of scooters. So I would not be shocked to learn that people who used to take the trolley down from North Beach down to South Beach to get to work now just take their scooters and get down to work. So, it's not a direct causation, and I don't want us to be locked into that way of thinking, because there are lots of other variables. So we also have extended the freebie services, right?
yes.
And that's a whole separate conversation that I'm sure we'll be bringing back to this committee at some time. But that is basically, if you live within the freebie service area, you can call up a freebie, and if you've got the time to be flexible, you can use that. And some might find that more appealing than a trolley. So it's not necessarily only, you reduce the hours, you reduce the ridership. I think there's a lot playing into that, which is why I want to come back to who's using the trolley when, so we can make an informed decision, try to keep it going for as many people as often as they need it, and cut out the low-hanging fruit.
And I'm gonna venture that by the time we get halfway through this contract, we're gonna have autonomous robo-taxis that are at least some part, if not a critical element of transportation in our city, that I think is going to somewhat reduce some of the demand or impact on some of these services.
I'm just waiting to see somebody figure out how to hijack those little delivery bots and just reprogram them to take them, like, sit on it and just take it where you want to go.
Don't give people
Personalized
ideas.
mobility.
Don't give them ideas. Don't give people ideas.
All right, so we left off on the third option. Third option consists of reducing the number of spare vehicles that we purchase. We are required by state and federal regulations to have a 20% spare ratio, and that would be about a total of 5 vehicles. But what we could do is only purchase 2 new spares and use 3 of the best existing trolleys that we have. They would be the low floors, of course, refurbish those.
Yes.
And use those as spares.
That would be a yes for me.
And
so-
how, I don't know the details, you do, right? How impactful is that going to be on our services? How often are we actually utilizing the spare fleet?
Well, currently, we have quite a number of vehicles that are spares. We have about 33 vehicles and only 21 in service, so we have a lot of spare vehicles.
But how often do we kind of
They're rotated.
tap
they're-
into that?
They're used all the time. They're not just parked
Okay.
in a lot. They're used all the time. They're switched out. The fleet is aging. Some vehicles are over 10. The ones that we would keep are slightly newer. I want to say they're from 2017, 2016, 2017, thereabouts. But nevertheless, they're, almost 10 years old, and they're up there in miles, and they're showing their wear and tear. They are breaking more
But again, even
frequently.
if we got part of the way through this contract where we said, you know what, these are actually this spare fleet that we're going to utilize for cost savings, if in year 3 or 4, they've just lived outlived their useful life and there's nothing we can do, then we can address that kind of on an intermittent basis, correct?
I believe so.
If there's more, I think if there's serious reliability issues, that could be something revisited if we find dollars, one-time dollars to buy additional vehicles. So that could be done. They've obviously negotiated a new price. It won't be the prices that are set here. But then I think the important thing is just like when you buy a new car, you don't have issues for a number of years, right? So hopefully these spares will be sitting there unutilized for quite a number of years until the existing one. So if it
So
seems
if we only
amicable.
purchase two spares instead of 5, we would save $600,000 a year if the trolley vehicle is selected and $1.2 million a year if the bus is selected.
Hold on, that's the savings per year?
Yes.
So what would be our cumulative savings?
We're up to 3 point, if you accepted, which it sounds like, going with the bus, the reduced service hours, and reducing the spare purchase, you're up to 3.2.
Got it.
And there's one more
Yes.
dollar
The last
value one,
option.
and then
The last option would be to purchase smaller vehicles. Gillig offers both the trolley and the buses in 2 different sizes, actually several different sizes. But the ones that would be appropriate for our service would be either the 30-foot or the 40-foot. The administration's original recommendation is a 40-foot vehicle. However, we could purchase 30-foot vehicles. The capacity of the vehicle would be less, of course, for passengers. The 30-foot vehicle would accommodate 24 passengers versus the 40-foot vehicle accommodates 40. Again, our system is a robust mass transit system that carries millions of people, but we think that with a 30-foot vehicle, it's something we can live with. If this option is exercised.
I'm sorry to cut you off, and again, I'm not an expert, this is just anecdotal. I see a lot of benefit from a smaller, more nimble fleet, just in terms of the backup that it causes in traffic. I get that this is a critical element, but if you're driving down Alton Road, I'm really not convinced sometimes the trolleys aren't causing more traffic than they're actually alleviating. I get that they are a required service for people that don't want to rely on a car, but the larger buses that we have, I think that there is a significantly larger impact on how they're backing up some traffic on some of our key commercial corridors.
Point well taken. So if this option is.
Would you disagree or in line?
For the number of people that our system carries, it needs a larger vehicle than most. That was something that was an outcome of an optimization study that we conducted a couple of years ago that really scrutinized our system and, ways of value engineering it and trying to make it better. And one of the things that came out of that study was that we need a mass transit vehicle. Whether it's a bus or a trolley, doesn't really make a difference.
So for this one, for this
dual
option.
doors.
Yep. How often are our trolleys at capacity? Or if we go with the smaller vehicle, are the trolleys often at a capacity that one is above our existing capacity, right? So do we have a lot of times where people are waiting in line, and we're separating the buses because I know that this is a bus issue, but is it often people are waiting for trolleys and a trolley goes by and it is just too packed, they can't get on? That has never been my experience, but I welcome everybody to chime
So
in.
there's one route in particular, our Collins Express, which is what I call the workhorse of our system. That route is often at capacity with people waiting, and a complaint that we do regularly receive is that the trolley passed by and didn't pick me up, and it's because it's at capacity. That happens more often on the Collins Express. Then during peak periods, we do have times where every trolley, I've been in some of these
Is there a
vehicles
way to
where it's
have a
like
hybrid
sardine.
fleet where we maintain however many trolleys or buses are needed for that route or other routes that we need a larger capacity, but for some of our other routes that are less utilized, we'd go with the smaller, less cost impactful?
We could. that's something we could look at route by route to see what rather than a one-size-fits-all, which
Yeah.
is essentially what initially
makes
was
sense.
proposed.
So Jose, what you're talking about is that like the three circulators being in the smaller vehicle where the Collins Express would be the larger vehicle.
Yeah, so
Yes.
maybe we don't get $200,000 of cost savings, but if we can get
Probably about that.
$130,000 of cost savings and not reduce the capacity for the routes that are already at capacity, I think that's a win-win.
Yes, agreed. Thank you. Okay, so this slide summarizes, thank you, PJ. So this slide summarizes the four options. Key takeaway, and I know our CFO is doing the math in real time, but if all four options are exercised, the savings can range from 1.8 million if the Gillig trolley is selected as the vehicle to $3.4 million per year, these are, if the Gillig bus is selected.
If I can, keeping score at home, as you know, I was obviously, I believe that, because I'm also trying to craft your motion, is that it was the bus to save the 500,000, the reduced service hours, reduce the spares, but kind of splitting the baby on number four, and I will give it the $100,000 estimate because it has to be negotiated, is that there would be the smaller buses on the circulator routes and keeping the larger buses on the,
fine.
so that would be $3.3 million right there, which gets us substantially there. And I know that there are elements that we've talked about that aren't really part of this, about the fund overall, that we can have some cost savings reducing studies and some other costs internal
have
to the
those
fund.
funds.
Oh, okay. And then I know you wanted to talk about, so that's going to really ameliorate a lot of the fund issues, but there are some more that they're going to go through. And I think you were going to talk about
Yes.
the county interlocal
Yes,
and
that's the next
and the
slide.
Collins Express, because there's an important caveat that needs to be put in there.
That's a good segue. The county requires every municipality in Miami-Dade that operates a municipal circulator route to execute an intergovernmental agency agreement. Because by home rule charter, by county code, the county has jurisdiction over transit operations as well in Miami-Dade County. So we are in discussions with the county. They approached us. Clearly, we would need the interlocal agreement with them, but they approached us very specifically with the goal of avoiding any duplication between their service and our service. So they're going through a very comprehensive evaluation. They're doing this with every municipality in Miami-Dade that has that operates a municipal circulator to try to minimize that duplication.
Who takes precedence? The county's
The
routes?
county,
Okay.
yeah, the county's routes. If there is a bus route that operates along the same route as a municipal route, the county has priority. So, those discussions are ongoing. We don't know exactly what the outcome will be, but, they hold the cards. So if there's any circulator route, current or under the new contract, which is essentially the same routes, we would continue the same routes. If there's any route that they are not in agreement with, they have the prerogative to deny that, and then clearly we would not, that would be a savings because we would not be operating that route. We would not need to purchase those vehicles. Okay, and we talked about the financial impact, that we're trying to close the gap. So now the forecast that our CFO was referring to, the budget department forecasted the transportation fund for the next 6 years. This forecast includes all our current programs and services. However, it does not include, and I just want to state it for the record, it does not include some of the one-time operating enhancements that were approved by the City Commission for this fiscal year '26. Those include the water taxi, $600,000 to match the FDOT grant for the water taxi, the Art Week transportation plan that was approved in the amount of $388,000, the midsize shuttle for senior residents to take them to the Walmart, that's $39,000, and the maintenance of bike lanes.
Jose, tell me what
for
happens
$100,000.
between 28 and 29.
Between 28 and 29, so in 29, obviously, we fall into the red, we're at a deficit there. Essentially, the surplus runs out.
If you're asking about the acceleration, why
We
it
got that
appears
part.
accelerating, the reason it's,
hold on.
oh, sorry.
I got that part.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, because
Are we operating at
we
a
are
deficit
spending
every
more
I mean,
than- yeah.
something happens where we stay on the same track in 26, 27. We reduce by $5 million in 28, and then we reduce each year by $5 million. Why all of a sudden are we running at a $5 million deficit? Is it because of the trolley? And now we've essentially just look at this same chart but add $3.5 million onto each of these?
No, what you're seeing here is if the contract was approved without any of these funding, operational reductions that we're talking about, so if they approved everything with the trolley and all these other things, and what reason you're seeing an acceleration in the utilization of that fund balance is because all the buses don't come online day one. They come in tranches, as it were. So you're seeing an acceleration in that transition.
This is for the overall transportation.
Right, so he has multiple slides showing where we would get to based on recommendations.
What is driving this primarily is our new cost associated with the trolley. So this chart is going to be dramatically different. Still going to see the same trends, but not as accelerated, given that we are recommending $3.5 million of cost savings for each of them.
Yes.
Right, so that one is if you approve the contract without any of these adjustments, the bigger buses, the higher the number of spares,
So if we
all
can
this.
go back, Jose.
Yes.
Yeah, so by.
So right here, in 28, the fund will have theoretically, let's call it a surplus of $7 million. In 29, it'll have a surplus of $1.5 million. In 30, it'll have a surplus or a deficit then of 3.5.
No, what you're seeing there is what the fund balance is that is available. It has a structure, this contract will cause a structural deficit. Right now, it's about a balanced budget. When you have this, if you implemented this contract as is without these changes, it makes a very large structural deficit that accelerates and it takes about 2 or 3 years for the full weight of the contract to come into effect. So this would show is that the transportation fund would be completely out of money by the 2029 if no changes
So
were
I
made.
get that, but if we do implement these savings that we're
Right.
discussing here, then
Yes.
this chart
Changes
looks
dramatically.
different.
Changes, and I have some of those scenarios already, not with the real-time numbers that we just, but if all four options are exercised, okay, but before we get there, one of the things we did was really look into our current program budget and see where we can cut. And so we've identified potentially 4 different programs where some cuts may be possible. And this is, we don't have to discuss these today, this is just, to put this on your radar.
Well, I'll tell you what, number 2, if those are the digital boards that you guys put in front of my apartment, just to mess with me every month, count me into getting rid of those.
It's a lot more than that. It's
Not
it's
that I
not just
see.
that. Yes, these 4 programs total to almost $1 million annually that we would save. And some of these costs wouldn't necessarily be eliminated, if you will, but they would be perhaps transferred to another department with a larger budget that can absorb. So this, if we take these savings into account, and we exercise the 4 options, the 4 cost savings options, then this would be the scenario, the forecast, if the trolley vehicle, the 40-foot trolley vehicle is selected. So under this scenario, we would go into a deficit in fiscal year 31. So we would already be extending the life of the transportation fund a few more years. And then if the Gillig bus option is ultimately selected, as well as all 4 options, we would remain cash flow positive beyond 2031.
So I think the important element here is this one up here is kind of what you discussed today, but what it's important to include is, so not only would it include, and again, I'm trying to draft a motion here, is, utilizing the Gillick buses, reducing the service hours, reducing the spare vehicle purchase, using the smaller buses on circulator routes. We also discussed that the Collins Express bus purchase would be contingent upon county approval.
Correct.
Because just as a side note, if the county doesn't approve that, which would not be good for the overall system, because it is our most utilized trolley, that is how much, 3.8 million? 3.8 million. That alone would cause us, to solve the issue. We're hoping that doesn't come to fruition, and we're able to keep all 4 routes. And the 4 items that he had spoken about, which are, reducing some of those elements. And we can mix and match that. We talked about reducing studies because there's not a lot of capital dollars in effect. But if you go back to that 4 ones, because there's one specifically I want to point out that would have an impact that people would see. And this is removing the duplicative services. And I want you to speak, Jose, a little bit more about that 4th element, because that could cause some consternation. But there are duplicative services of a specific only to senior freebie program. And this is one of the ones I believe runs from Rebecca Towers to Publix, which is duplicative of the trolley that does that.
I get it. I don't know if
You don't have to make that decision today.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
It could be done through the budget process, and we could put these as recommended efficiency reductions in the next budget process. But the charge was to come back with a plan to get us structurally in a long term, let's call it beyond 5 years, actuarially sound. So you don't have to accept those 4, but I think that those are all elements that we discussed in the 27 budget process. But to move this contract forward, which is what we need to do today, is, if I can, return to commission with a favorable recommendation, approve the contract in substantial form utilizing Gillick buses, reduce service hours, reduce the spare vehicle purchase, use smaller buses on circulator routes, and to make sure that the Collins Express bus purchase is contingent upon county approval. I think we're good with that?
Yes, sir.
If that's the.
This is where, I hate being a politician, but can we make more efficient service hours and things like that? You start talking about reducing, I kid, but I don't know if any of these are going to be,
That's why we're not gonna put this as part of the motion, but we wanted to show that we have a plan, we've heard it, the commission, and we know that there won't be a bunch of dollars available. We can't we want to work that we don't need the general fund to subsidize this fund. It may have to at some point, but we don't have to do it today.
And not only do we not have to do it today, but when we walked in here, essentially the contract would leave us with a $5 million operating deficit in our transportation fund.
Correct.
Right? So now we got down to reducing that by, let's call it $3.5 million. So $1.5 million that makes the overall fund much more sustainable. We still want to try and bridge that gap, but that can be funded as of now. Let's say we're not able to find another dollar of efficiency. That can be funded out of the surplus, the ongoing surplus in the transportation fund, and that won't have to be supplemented by the general fund?
Correct, Chair. And what we need to make sure is that we look very closely, because as Jose, because we like to be very transparent on this, is that this works under the assumption that this commission has approved the water taxi for 1 year. So if we're going to continue with that, I know that there's been discussions with the county, with City of Miami DDA, to help spread that 600,000 to try to get that down. So there's a lot of things that the administration is working forward to bring this into a structural, sound situation. But we believe that this motion, moving forward, this contract, to move this forward, will be sufficient to make sure that we have the funding to make sure these programs move forward. So if that is the motion, if it's acceptable, I believe I have to show Commissioner Bott making that motion. Based on
Listen, when the transportation fund was something that was highlighted, in June of our budget retreat, and that gave me great agita of somehow trying to find just $5 million in an already strained budget process. So I thank you and your team, our partner here, that we're going to go forward with the RFP for making this much more digestible. Listen, in any case, would we love to do all of these things? Of course. But I think this is really optimizing our bang for the buck.
Yes, thank you. So we'll show you seconding the motion?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, show pass. Thank
you.
you.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
You may.
Just one point/request. As you will recall, the pricing that we received from Gillig, which is the bus manufacturer, I think came in February with an expiration date of August. Limousines of South Florida managed to leverage their relationship with Gillig to extend that another 60 days. So that expires at the end of the month. Just respectfully requesting that this item be placed on the October commission agenda.
I believe it can. We have our motion, so.
Great. Awesome. Thank you.
That's not from Outfront Media.
No,
You
that-
were in a different hat.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
That's a different hat.
Perfect.
Right. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
That's great. How about we do OB 123?
We're going to do OB 123.
We have a hard stop at 1:15.
Understood. So we're going to do OB 123 in 15 minutes. I'm going to read them quickly while they come up. OB 1.
Is that, who is the sponsor of those?
They're various, Commissioner Suarez, yourself, Commissioner Bott.
Right, so maybe we won't do those. How about OB 5 and MB 1? Because you're a sponsor of one of those, right, Commissioner Bott? Yeah. How about OB 5 and NB 1?
And that's the green roofs. So let
Yes.
me read those in.
I think we-
OB 5, discuss feasibility of implementing a green roof at City Hall, OB 5. And MB 1, resolution of the mayor and city commission of the city of Miami Beach, Florida, directing the city administration to explore feasible strategies for creating and expanding green roofs, as well as incorporating greenery and landscaping on city buildings, and present its findings to the Land Use and Sustainability Committee and the Finance and Economic Resiliency Committee within 90 days of the adoption of the resolution MB 1.
Good afternoon, Commissioner and committee members. Elizabeth Muro, Assistant Director for Facilities and Fleet. We have addressed this item before FERC. This is in reference to the green roofs, both at City Hall and at other city facilities. And we originally had proposed to have a pilot program at 1833 Bay Road, which is a facilities management building. After further discussion at the June I believe, 11th meeting, we were asked to review other city facilities where we can implement a green roof. And what we have suggested before you is to spread out the original allocation that we had compiled, about $600,000, to 3 facilities. One, the 1833 building, the 77 building, as well as Scott Rakeout building. And we can possibly put a pilot program in each one of these to see what will be the most successful.
I have a question about that. City Hall was designed to be 1 story taller. Why would we not focus our efforts on something that is in town center that the hotel will be looking down upon and would be, a good message about resilient Miami Beach? Can we not rethink this and come up with a strategy to do our pilot right here?
Commissioner, Frank Garcia, Facilities Management Division Director. The existing parapet height at the roof here at City Hall would make basically the type of infrastructure that's needed to make the space habitable and enjoyable would be a lot more robust and more expensive. We're trying to see, as was recommended previously, to see where we can implement some smaller scale, lower impact green roofs, and then work off of those lessons learned, see what works well, what doesn't. But here, to make that space usable would require a significant amount of capital.
And what are you envisioning as a pilot program? Do you have anything to show us about? Because we'd all talked about, we don't need to be a big grassy field. It can be, planters. It can be all different types of things. I think I referenced the book that Eric has in his office with the dog-eared pictures now. So do you have something to show?
So we had an attachment that actually has a rendering of what is being proposed at 1833, and this is a modular structure, so it allows for both flexibility and ease of maintenance, and this would be fitting for that.
Yeah, like Liz said, the system is basically what we would like to pilot is pre-vegetated modular roof trays. Basically, there's an underlying infrastructure and then
And
these.
PJ, if there's a slide
Yeah,
for that,
I thought
if we could pull that up
there was a
as Frank's talking.
And so, so these trays are pre-vegetated. They're basically dropped in. Irrigation and drainage is kind of engineered on the front end, and then what happens is maintenance is a lot easier when you can remove and service those trays individually as modules.
So the building that's getting close to occupancy on the corner of 17th and Washington, I think, it's the Benesco, I don't know if Benesco funded it or,
It was going to be the Thompson Hotel, and maybe the flag has changed there. Is that the one you're talking about?
yes. So I remember driving past them as they were installing their rooftop. You know, they were craning up trees and palms and all kinds of cool things. Have we looked into see what people are doing on the private sector so we can inform ourselves about what we could do as a pilot on our roofs?
So when we looked at our roofs, we actually worked with Tremco, and they have a division that specifically just focuses on this. And so when they consider the pilot program, they looked at vegetation that would be resistant, you know, not only to the environment, but it would not pose an issue when we're considering wind and load. I mean, they took everything into consideration. And I can see some green roofs that are being implemented citywide in other developments, and I'm not too sure if they're going to be viable. I can tell you that. I'm like, what are you doing with a palm tree up there? But, so I wouldn't guide ourselves by that. I would guide by, you know, the experts in the field who have studied, and they take into consideration all those factors so that you have a project that is completely viable.
There it is. Thank you, PJ.
That looks nice.
This is where?
1833 Bay Road in Sunset Harbor. That's
This is the facilities?
Yeah, and there's maybe next PJ. I think there's a couple pages. Oh, maybe not. Okay.
Give me 1 second. I'm pulling it up from the agenda.
Thank you, PJ. That's based on this pre-vegetated modular roof tray system that we spoke about. And the consultant, you know, basically, you know, studies the microclimate and wind and the load that your building can sustain, and then kind of makes these recommendations. Thank you, PJ.
That's a two-story building, correct?
Yes.
And what I'm thinking of is just, you know, I wanted it an area where there are more vertical buildings, so people are looking down on something. I guess in Sunset Harbor, we do have several buildings in this immediate area that is or are vertical to this, right? So you're going to get an improvement in the aesthetics there. And what is the cost that's associated with this?
So when we got this cost, this was about $600,000. That contemplates $400,000 for the installation, you know, the whole entire vegetation and everything, but it also includes $170,000, which has to do with a roofing membrane that has to be prepared, and a 20-year maintenance agreement, so that we know that this is always going to be in good shape.
So there would be no ongoing CapEx or maintenance?
That's included in there. We contemplated that.
I love the idea, and I had a similar item as well. I was really struck by the significant cost that I wasn't expecting. I would love to do this at every building across the city. I'm fine approving this and saying we'll consider as part of the budget.
It's expensive.
Going through the process, I'm 95% certain that we get to the budget year, and this is one of those enhancements where we go, well, we'd love to do it, we just don't have the money. So I'm fine to do that. I don't know if this is something that we see implemented. when push comes to shove.
Yeah, no, it's nice to have. I'm not sure we're going to find our way to it this year. I think it would be, useful to figure out how to do it. And I think it would be useful to learn also how we can, do community gardens or something along those lines where it's more than just decorative. So if it's not this year, it's in a future year, or we have somebody come in and sponsor it, or, or encourage our new buildings that are going to come online over the next number of years to consider that as part of their planning phase.
And from you going through this, I know it could be an unfair question because it's not like this is your area of expertise. If this was a completely new ground-up development, right? Let's say we were building the facilities department. We go, okay, here's option A that is just normal, status quo, and option B, and it's incorporating one of these green roofs.
Like a fire station.
Yeah, would that still be $600,000, or is part of this is because we have the existing infrastructure and we need to replace some things? So would it, and what I'm thinking is, do we kind of go forward with exploring a policy where new development, whether it be on the private side, or we can even look at incentives on the public side or on the private side, look for incentives to require, encourage green roofs throughout the city? Would the cost still be so high, or?
Mr. Chair, it's hard to say. What we know for certain is that green roofs are an easier ask, when implemented early on during the, design development phase, right before the project is, fully baked, let alone built. And as far as incentives are concerned, we do have the Urban Heat Island Ordinance, which does encourage not necessarily green roofs, but certainly along the lines of, cool roofs, white roofs, and green roofs.
Yeah. Yeah, I know from my view at home, and I overlook a white roof on the community health center along 7th and Alton, and that gets destroyed very quickly, versus just across the street is Baptist Health that has some sort of green roof like this. What it does for just the overall community is like night and day. So perhaps we can explore, and I think actually that's where this started, was perhaps we explore incorporating requirements or encouragements for green roofs going forward. And then it became, well, let's put our money where our mouth is. How could we ask the private sector to do it if the city doesn't do it? So maybe we talk, even though we could talk about having this as an incentive or requirement for new city facilities.
Well, I mean, look, we are going to be building a fire station at some point, hopefully in our lifetimes, and that should have a green roof. So I think.
So perhaps there's a couple of elements there. One is on the private side, which is probably, and the city attorney will jump in if I'm off, is probably a separate referral to land use to discuss if there's any kind of incentivization for a developer to build a green roof. So that's probably a separate discussion. This one, city, is, I think the chair hit it on the head, is the difficulty with funding, but it could return to commission. You'd have to let me know if it's going to be a budget priority in the 27 budget priority, or for it just to be considered. And I want to explain the nuance of that.
Jason, everything is a priority.
And you understand that a lot because we've talked about that, is that as of right now, it is not in our capital project. So it wouldn't even be considered. So if there's the thought of let's put it on the list, and if we happen to get funding for it, that's great. So it could be afforded to create the project. If you think it's that important to make it a priority, we can add the word priority to the motion if we want it forward. Or if we think that it's just very difficult financial environment we're going to be over the next couple of years, which I do agree with the chair, the item could just be heard and closed. And or an element of a motion going back could be to direct the administration that whenever we're building a new building, that at the very least the green roof option is analyzed, and to present that to commission, with whatever that cost differential is. So that could be a separate one. This could not create a project, but just saying going forward, any new city project where there's a roof being built, that the green roof option is looked at from a feasibility perspective. So there's, I'm just giving you a couple different paths. But I know as we're wrapping up here, wanted to see, where is Commissioner Bott, who will have to make the motion? Or if there is one, if just heard and closed, just let us know.
You know what, I think we should toss it into the mix for commission discussion and review, not as a priority, but you never know who's going to turn up with what opportunities, and I'd hate to just close the door on it when it's something we do want to move towards, and you guys have done the work, and I think it's something we should be talking about and continuing to talk about.
Okay, so we could return to Commissioner with a favorable recommendation to recommend the creation of a green roof project and to be considered as part of the 27 budget process, if that's your motion?
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll show Commissioner Bott. Commissioner Magazine, will you second that?
I will, yes.
We also
All
vote
in favor?
positively. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes 2-0, and that'll be OB5 and MB1 together. Thank you.
Yeah, and Amy, perhaps you could work with facilities to just spearhead different ideas as opposed to us just, paying for these. I'm just browsing headlines. Sewer district grants send green infrastructure dollars to Cleveland neighborhoods.
Yeah, I mean,
Being
maybe-
creative on funding, on grants or public-private partnerships or things like that, we love the idea. Economically, it's challenging, so other ways that you could envision are catalysts that could kickstart some of these, I'm all ears.
Okay, we sure can do that, and we also do offer this as an option through our private property adaptation program, green roofs. So we've recommended that in a couple situations, and people haven't quite done it yet, but that is an incentive. So,
And if I can, if the project gets created, that's obviously something that my grants division will look at, if there's any grant possibilities. But unfortunately, as we know, in the environment we're in right now, green initiatives have not been
Have gotten a black
funded well recently. But it's something, by creating the project, it's something that now we'll put it on our radar.
Great.
I think we're at your time.
We are. Thank you all. Commissioner Bad and I will be seeing you all soon. Thank you for everybody's work over these last 2 years.
Thank you.